Well, very wonderful. Good evening to everyone. How about those new credits Chris Clark designed for us? I love them. I don't know about you, PJ.
I was about to say, man, like I saw him right before we started and just was so blown away. Once again, Chris Clark just doing the
Coming in clutch.
coming in clutch, doing the best work possible. I don't know what we would do without him, to be honest with you.
I don't either. Well, it is Thursday, November 12th, 2020, and this is episode 10 of Front Center Mezzanine. I can't believe we're at episode 10 over the last 6 months. This started as a lark when we all got shut down and we're like, what the hell are we going to do with our time?
Kind of like the channel.
I can't make theater anymore. Oh, let's talk to theater people. And that's sort of what the channel was too. But welcome. We have a super exciting guest tonight. But before we say hello to our guest, let's go through a little bit of the other stuff we got going on in the next couple of days. So before I do that, I want to talk quickly about the Smash-a-thon. I'm sure you all know the Smash-a-thon. Our good friend Kevin Smets was recently diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. So this weekend, November 14th through 15th, starting at 3 p.m. Pacific on the 14th, going for like 26 hours. It is a Schmodown community-wide event. All your favorite shows like Call to Action, Let's Get Ready to Schmodown, the Cinefanatics, and of course us are going to be a part of that. Sunday morning, PJ and I are hosting an unwind. Normally we do it Sunday night, but we're doing it Sunday morning with some pretty cool guests. And Sunday evening, I am co-hosting Inner Geekdom Family Feud with my awesome co-host, Rachel Cushing. That is going to be super exciting. We hope you all can join us. And of course, the main point is to raise awareness and also raise some money for Kevin. So if you can join us for all of that, if you want to try and stay up the full 25 hours like it's college and you've had 3 Red Bulls and you have a fucking economics test in the morning, that's awesome. And if you just want to stay up because that's what you do, that's awesome too. But if
that's just college?
Well, I mean,
I've been doing that since lockdown started.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what sleep is anymore. I get it when I can. Yeah. So because of the Smash-a-thon this weekend, we normally do our Mandalorian show on Saturdays, but we're going to do it tomorrow. And we're going to do it at 10 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. So that'd be 1 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. for you because Arizona doesn't do daylight savings time.
Which is both a blessing and a curse because I don't have to worry about ever-changing clocks, but then I forget that the time is shifted. So every time I'm setting stuff up, I have to remember to do it in Mountain Time through StreamYard. And
right.
More than once I've messed up and we've almost like lost our live feed and stuff. It's been trying to get used to it still.
Sure.
It happens.
Tomorrow we are doing our watch along. There's a Schmodown pay-per-view tomorrow. It's the Wildberries retirement match, and then the undercard is Jen Kemp versus Video Drew. So because of that, we're going to do our watch along of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles an hour later than we normally would. So we're going to do that at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be a lot of fun. I love this movie. I pretty much like anything John Hughes had his hand in, but this I think is one of the funniest movies ever made. And as we go deeper and deeper towards the holiday season and do Merry Movie Squad, this is a great choice. And then Monday, our Monday watch along, we're doing the night before. We're getting a little Jew in there. There aren't a lot of good Hanukkah movies, but I was like, let's at least watch this one where Seth Rogen wears a Hanukkah sweatshirt because we got to represent the Jews like myself.
Yes, sir.
Suddenly Soundtracks. If you didn't watch this week's, it was a nice short and sweet episode where they went through Nightmare Before Christmas. And of course, Suddenly Soundtrack is the show where they take a soundtrack from a movie or a show out of context and just grade the songs as standalone listens. Next week is one of my favorite movies, and we have something really cool for that. We're doing Sing Street. And what's really cool about that is we are being joined by Max Bartos. Max was in the off-Broadway production of Sing Street at New York Theater Workshop. He was about to make his Broadway debut with Sing Street in March before, of course, the entire theater industry got shuttered by this stupid bitch named COVID and the way our government handled it so poorly. But also on that show is going to be Kristen Stewart,
Kristen Smith.
Kristen Smith, not Kristen Stewart. I don't know Kristen Stewart.
I wish we knew Kristen Stewart, but
yeah, no. I mean, if we could get Kristen Smith on here, that'd be dope. Kristen Smith, PLD, Tim Franco, and of course our host Chris Clark. And calling Kristen Smith Kristen Stewart was like a Chris Clarkism. So
yes.
And then next Friday, since we already announced this double feature of Trading Places. That's a Chris Clark mistake. And Coming to America, 2 Eddie Murphy comedies that, yes, are holiday movies, whether you like it or not. I think that about does it.
Can we get Kristen Stewart along with Kristen Smith? I would love
Battle of the Kristens.
Yes.
I'd put my money on Kristen Smith. She's wily.
Agreed.
Anything else? Any other notes before we jump in with our guest?
I mean, I don't have a lot more. I think that I'm ready to go. I'm excited for this guest very, very much. As you know, I'm actually quite a big fan of the movie Stuck, which is super exciting.
I know. You text me all the time like, I'm watching Stuck again.
Yeah, I know.
Stuck again.
I was listening to it before we started.
Of course.
Not gonna lie to you.
All right. So without further ado, we will bring in our guest, ladies and gentlemen, Gerard Canonico.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
What's up, guys?
How are you?
I like that you didn't bury the lead. You're just like, I love Stuck, and I had that wait later in my notes, but
I love that you love Stuck. That's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm so glad.
No, dude, I just remember seeing the trailer last year whenever they dropped the trailer for it, and I kept waiting for it to hit theaters, and I was still living in Los Angeles at the time, and it had such limited release, I missed it, and I just kept waiting and waiting on VOD, and when it finally hit, I bought it right away. I've watched it so many times since, man.
Oh,
man. I
man.
love it. So
Thanks,
when I
dude.
told him
of
we were
course.
going to come on the show, he was like, wait, the dude from Stuck? I was like, yeah, the dude from Stuck.
Yeah.
That's rad. I love
Yeah.
Stuck.
So how have you been doing? How have you been handling COVID? I know it's
man.
been a wild couple months for everyone.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I've been okay. Like, all things considered, I have personally not been affected by COVID. I've been tested like 3 times now throughout this entire pandemic, and every time it's been negative. So whatever that means is great. I was pretty nervous. I had a thing I had to fly to California for last weekend, so I was like hoping for the best as always, wearing my mask everywhere I could. But you know, it's like sort of an unpredictable thing, so it's always scary. But you know, these rapid tests are pretty cool, and the PCR is pretty amazing now too. They're getting better and better at that. But all things considered, I am okay, staying sane. I stayed in New York the entire time, and I'm pretty lucky. I have my own place, so it's like I can kind of make my own decision about what I want to do. I know a lot of people had roommate issues and people had to leave, and you know,
Sure.
it's been pretty wild here, but New York is keeping its vigilance and keeping its spirit through the whole thing, which has been nice. I mean, I can still grocery shop, I can still go to the park, I can still, you know, they're putting a little bit more restrictions on it now. Like, I think we have a curfew again pretty soon. But it's better they're doing preparation for another wave than not doing anything at all. I'm not really
Sure.
mad at it. I mean, they're doing something. It's a little like, okay, a 10 p.m. curfew is not really going to stop COVID from spreading, but like, I see the intention behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was talking to someone because I've been in New York the whole time also, and it's been a trip. Like, I still sort of have like stress dreams from March and April when things were so dire, and I heard sirens all the time and stuff. But
Yeah, it
people
was
were
like terrifying to just like walk your dog.
yeah,
Like,
it was
ridiculous.
I felt like I was living in I Am Legend. Like, every time I went out with my dog, I was like, Will Smith, I just needed my rifle on my back in case someone came to attack me. But I was talking to someone about the curfew, and they're like, what, is COVID smart and it stopped spreading at 10? I was like, no, I think the intention is the later people stay out, the more they tend to drink and party and their inhibitions get down. And so, you know, if you just keep it earlier and you focus on, okay, you want to eat outside, eat, and then go home.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say it's not that the virus is getting smarter; it's that people get stupider as the night goes on and they've been drinking. Like, I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. So,
and there's definitely certain patches of the city that are a little bit more hip and like younger that are wild. Like, it's also how the city's designed, right? Like the Lower East Side, the Lower West, like it caters to college kids. And every restaurant is kind of like up against each other, so people can sit down without masks, but then there's people standing up next to them with masks, and it's like, it's just all very, and a lot of people don't really care that are younger too, unfortunately, that I've seen at least, which kind of sucks. But for the most part, New York is like trying to do their part. I mean, my hood is pretty good.
Yeah, I think you guys have overall handled it better. Like, I live in Arizona, moved here last year, and I live down in Tucson, and we're a pretty blue area of the state. Now the state's actually blue, so you know, congratulations to us. But like,
congrats.
I mean, at the same time, I've also had people accost me for wearing masks out here. So there is a contingency of people who still just don't care, to your point, which is what it is.
I
It's
mean,
frustrating.
they're gonna be
Yeah,
everywhere. Is
I
sort
know.
of the thing. I was trying to fight that good fight for a really long time. I mean, online, and I still do. If it's really like, if I see somebody in public and you're indoors and somebody's not saying something to you, you just got to say something, right? Like you gotta speak up. But like, there's certain fights that I felt like are just not worth having anymore, because it's like you're just arguing with people that don't actually have the same information as you, and like whoever's fault that is whatever. But it leads to nowhere. And it just became way too emotionally exhausting for a long time. So I've been trying to pick my battles a little bit with that kind of stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I agree. I've said something sometimes, and then I've said something to the wrong person, and it didn't go the right way. So picking your battles is good advice. Yeah. But look, normally we'll start by going back in time and talking about childhood and all that. But before we do that, because you're such a prominent member of the theater community, because with the shutdown and Broadway has been closed for so long, there's been all this stuff going on with equity. There's been all these deliberations and debates over how they're going to handle it. And so I'd love to give you a platform and opportunity to talk about your thoughts on it. I can only imagine how frustrating it is. Like, I read an article today, Caitlin Canonico, who starred in The Prom, has type 1 diabetes, and she was talking about how equity is not giving her insurance anymore, and that's just disastrous for someone like her who has such a potentially debilitating condition, and diabetic medication is astronomically expensive even with insurance.
Yep.
So
100%. No, she and I worked with Caitlin in 2009, I think. And I remember her dealing with that as a teenager, and doing her job, being at work every day, and thankful for the insurance that we get. The issue here, and I understand the issue, because the rules are you work a certain amount of weeks, and that's how you get your insurance, right? And now, since there haven't been any new contracts issued, like nobody's had a new equity contract in almost a year. So the work weeks are all running out. The insurance weeks are all running out. And so by, early next year, I think most, if not all, Broadway actors are going to be screwed unless they have another insurance plan. And on top of it, they just added that you have to work 12 weeks now to qualify, as opposed to, I think it was 11 weeks before. And so they're adding that in the middle of a pandemic, and they're asking us to pay dues. And you're like, what am I actually? I mean, I get that people are deliberating. I get there's people working, and everyone's working really hard. But like, the fact that there's no sort of plan that's being talked about to us, like there's no transparency. It's just they're arguing with SAG-AFTRA. We're getting emails that's like, hey guys, we're mediating, but like, don't make a big deal out of it. And so here's ways that you can work remotely. And I'm like, it's just outlining like guidelines and ideas that they have, but it's just, they've just been arguing with SAG-AFTRA this whole time about how to pay actors for this new reality of on-screen theater film mixture. So like, it's sensitive. I get it. I truly do. I get all sides of it, but it's really difficult when it's like everyone else has gone back to work in some capacity, and yet we don't have any sort of contract in place right now at all, like set for anything. There's no plan like for the future at all. It's just arguing with each other about bullshit, this, that, and the other thing. It just feels that way. So I don't know. Our insurance weeks are running out. No one's telling us how to, and the stimulus package is, I mean, I could go on forever.
No,
like money is running out. The resources are running out for us. And there's still, there's a Thanksgiving Day performance and like, it's great. I love watching theater. I love that people can perform, but to put people on TV from Broadway shows that have no plan of coming back and no help at all, you're just using it to make people feel good inside, when really those people are going to have no insurance and no job prospect probably in a few months. It's like mind blowing to me. Yeah. It's just a little, I don't know.
Yeah, it's frustrating. One of the things I admire so much about you is how outspoken you are and how socially active you are. Reading all your Facebook posts and stuff. I can only imagine how frustrating it might be. Like you said, like almost every other sector has figured out some way to get back to work
in some shape or form.
And yeah, look, I've watched Zoom readings. I've seen Zoom performances, but people are not getting remunerated for that properly. They're not equity contracts.
No,
they don't go towards your weeks or your insurance. And the
man.
fact that they're asking you throughout all this to continue to pay your dues, it's like,
what are they doing for? Our weeks are going to run out. It's like, it's wild. It is truly baffling, and it's scary. It's a scary thing. And I feel for Caitlin. I feel for somebody like her. Like, I'm not in the position like where like I have something that I rely on for my health medically, and like she needs that insurance so she can easier pay for something that is going to literally keep her active. And if she can't, she needs to find another job that will give her that insurance. That's just the way it is. That's the reality of the situation.
We tend not to mince words on here, and the reality is the health insurance industry in this country is completely and utterly fucked from the top to the bottom. There should be no reason that one's health insurance has any correlation to their job. It needs to be Medicare for all or something like that, as far as I'm concerned. I think PJ agrees.
Oh, I agree.
We are the only developed country in the entire world that doesn't have some sort of universal health care.
Any sort of basic universal health care at all.
It's nonsense. And hopefully with how things went last week, they will make strides towards that in the next couple of years. I am hopeful, but also skeptical because, it's just...
I'm the same way. I'm hopeful that we can at least have the conversation now. I'm hopeful that I saw a meme the other day that made me laugh that was like, a little concerned about Joe Biden's coronavirus task force team. There's not one family member. It's all scientists and doctors. And I was like, that's hilarious, because it's just like, that's literally what it should be from the beginning. And the fact that we spent this much time deliberating if that was the case is like, what planet am I on? Are there actually people that don't think that science is correct or real?
I think clearly there are, and that's
the crazy part. Like, well, here's the thing: social media was a mistake, because conspiracies and shit like that easily run rampant has created people who think the Earth is still flat and that science is not real, and it's kind of crazy. Like, there are 70 million people who voted for He Who Must Not Be Named once again and still believe that he handled everything correctly and that science doesn't matter. Like, this is not just going to magically go away because of the heat, and yet here we are with people who still believe that.
Yeah, man.
And not to go too far into politics, although I think all three of us have been all about politics probably for the last couple of months, if not years, is
pretty fired up.
Joe Biden is not a perfect candidate. He's not a perfect man, but I know at the end of the day, he will listen to opposing opinions. And if we're protesting things he does, I think his mind will be open enough to take a step back and say, why are they doing it? What changes can I make, instead of it just being a fucking brick wall of a human being who'd rather play golf and eat Big Macs than actually help the people he was elected to serve. So
no, there's nothing about him that has there's no empathy. I mean, he's so sociopathic. It's ridiculous. And he's such a narcissist. And it's like, I've never seen anyone have so much faith in themselves when like the truth actually proves the contrary of everything that he's done. He still thinks he's the greatest thing in the world. It's like, I mean, it's classic narcissism. Yeah. And I think
arguably
anyone in office,
worst case of it I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, this is the same dude who, when they shot Home Alone 2, the reason he has a cameo in it, he was like, you can shoot at the plaza, but I have to have a role in it. And Chris Columbus is like, fine, I guess that will put you in one scene. Like, how that's crazy. It
ruins the movie for me every time.
It does. I love that movie. And every time I have to look away, and I'm like,
dude,
he never should have been president. He let Kevin, a small child, out into New York by himself. But
it's proof. Look at the past, folks. Look at the past. No, I think you're right.
It was right there for us.
I think we'll be able to have conversations, and if people are upset about things, I think any sitting president should listen at least and like debate within themselves about if they should take action on that or not, and whether they do or not, that's up to them. But like, it's exactly what you're saying. It's a brick wall. Doesn't matter, his way or the highway, no matter what, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Surrounding yourself with people who are going to challenge you. Like, all of Trump's cabinet have been yes men, and if they said no, they got fired. I mean, the amount of people he's fired is just mind-boggling. But jumping back to theater for a second, and sort of like the overarching conversation with the mistakes that have been made is like, look, aside from the equity issues and the insurance issues, I think it's been illuminated. We talked a lot about this with Heath Saunders when he was on the show, about how there are these systemic issues in the theater industry, systemic racism, body type issues, et cetera, being all of them. And, here's the deal. Like, I was nominated for a Tony this year. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to explain how conflicted I am about this. I don't think they should have had the Tonys this year, not because there wasn't work worth celebrating, but because there's so many other fucking things the theater industry needs to address head on. And what better time to deal with that when there's no theater to be made? All you have now is time to put systems in place to protect marginalized people, to protect minorities who don't get the lead roles simply because of how they look or how much they weigh or if they're non-binary or trans. And so now is the time, and they're just sitting around saying, well, we're going to take away your health insurance and maybe we'll reopen in June.
Yeah, but that's also like it's also like bait, right? It's like here's a carrot, like we're maybe going to open in June. Like when I hear that, I don't want to say it, but I'm not optimistic. I want to see forward motion and progression. I know that now the vaccine conversation is happening. There's some hopefulness around this vaccine, which has a 90% success rate, which is wild. If that is true, that is wild and awesome. And hopefully at least we'll have something come out soon. But yes, the fact that they chose look, I don't mind celebrating the work that was done before the shutdown. I don't mind celebrating other work too. The fact that there's like still a competition this year is the thing that bugs me, because I don't think anyone, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I was nominated, I wouldn't want to be like nominated this year. It would kind of just feel like cool. I mean, I'm happy I'm nominated, but also like I'd rather be competing in the season, with everyone and have the fairness actually. And like they put out that We See You White American Theater, and we got nothing from the theater industry, and then they just worked on how to do the Tony Awards and put up the Music Man sign.
Yeah, when that marquee went up, I was like, talk about tone down.
Bro, not to get really sad, but I read an article today that a stagehand working in the Winter Garden died.
Yep,
working in the theater today, putting up a set, taking down the set for Beetlejuice. Why are they working on the set right now? I mean, I'm glad they have work, but like, are we opening? Like,
no,
not as far as I mean, if we are, no one's told me.
Well, I mean, it is, because even just before we went live, it came out that Warner Brothers is looking at putting Wonder Woman on VOD in January because they're realizing summer 2021, even for movies, may not be a thing. So, like, it's really a thing that we have to face is what's next.
You know what I mean? It's a long game. It's a long game that people, I think, I get it, man. I want theater back. I want concerts back. I want a workflow that doesn't have to do with like mad testing, but I also want to address the systemic racism. I want to have less fucking white people making the decisions. And if you're doing a fucking musical about black people or about their culture and there's all white people in the room, then you have a fucking problem. And that is 95% what happens every time.
Absolutely.
And it's still happening. I mean, if you look at like the like board on equity, it's overwhelmingly white. It's overwhelmingly white. And so there's a lot of work to still do. And hopefully when we open up and when we do start doing things, I hope people take their own initiative, because that's what it is. I have to take my own initiative and accept jobs that I feel like are catering to the people that I believe in and the things that I believe in. And I'm lucky, man. I feel lucky to have that like advantage to be like, I want to do this, or I don't know if I want to work on that because of X, Y, and Z. But I think if more people did that, we would figure out how to have a more fair way of working. I mean, if you're as passionate as you say you are about equal rights, then fucking put your money where your mouth is.
I agree.
Don't like, feel free to say no. I mean, times are hard. We're all proving that we can get through this pandemic, but there's so much more. The pandemic, and then this, and then like we just have a lot of work to do, and I'm happy to do the work. It's scary as fuck. It's definitely overwhelming, and I'm not going to do it correctly every time, but like we all need to not be afraid to make those mistakes when we move forward and when the industry does open up. That's why the tragedy today, like that I read about today, like that guy, that didn't have to happen. It didn't have to happen. Like, why was he even in there working? I'm glad he had a job. I'm glad he was employed, but Jesus, like what? Why are you rushing to get the Music Man stuff up there?
I have no idea.
What is going on?
It's, everything you're saying, I couldn't agree with more. It's like,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Now I'm getting on like a. Whew.
No. Please, that's
please,
what we're
exactly.
that's what we're here for. We like to give people a platform to speak their mind, and so far there's not a word you've said that I don't agree with emphatically.
We've kind of considered this therapy as we've gone along for everyone involved. So
it kind of is. It's nice to talk about it.
Yeah.
And to what you're saying about the systems that are in place, it's like, okay, yeah, everything is run by a bunch of middle-aged or older white dudes. Maybe they're gay. That's, maybe they're straight.
And not all of them are terrible. Not all of them are not doing the work.
I'm a white dude. Look, I'm not casting aspersions.
But
it's all that. When you have all one thing, there's no different voices.
Yeah.
And you would expect or hope that as people retire or pass away, that the people replacing them would be different, but it's not. You're just seeing the same type of person.
Yeah. And it's nepotism. It's all kinds of nepotism everywhere in film, in theater.
Yep.
All over. But,
I'm not some big time producer, but I've been working in the theater now for 4 years, and I've been trying to meet and align myself with people who feel similarly.
Yeah.
And trying to build a younger coalition. So maybe down the line, we can actually have a say and actually make an impact.
I think that is dead on. I think that is exactly what you should be doing. And there's tons. I mean, like just looking at the team that I worked with on Be More Chill alone, there are tons of just young, overly capable people here in New York City that are not given the opportunities that show gave them. And then that show ended up like, obviously we wish we ran longer, but it was like, it felt like a real community of people trying to do the good work and like do a show that we loved and talk to the fans and be, not be just like a one-dimensional character or something to these people that love the show. I thought that was so unique. And I think that's the best thing about theater. It's that individual relationship you have with the show or the character or whatever it is. And I feel like that gets lost a lot, especially when you have just like a bunch of old, out of touch people being like, I think this is what works. I don't know. I don't care. I like it.
Well, I loved working on Be More Chill. And I think to your point, like working with Sam and Jen Tepper, younger people who are okay breaking the rules and trying new things. Yes. Okay. The lead producers of the show were, typical, but sometimes you need, and they gave Jen and Sam and people autonomy to make decisions and listen to them, which I appreciated.
Yeah, there was actually conversation, and I love Jerry Gehring. I think
Jerry's great.
He is so class act. Like there was something that happened, and it was semi minuscule during our Broadway run, and he doesn't live close to the theater or anything, and he drove like 2 hours just to like see us before the show and just like say a few words to us about something. And then he had to leave. And I was like, you drove 2 hours just to be like, I just wanted to make sure and check in and see if you guys, and I was like, that is exactly what you should be doing. Like nobody does that, man. Once the show's up, like nobody
people
does.
Like Scott Rudin don't do shit like that. And I have no problem calling him out directly. I wouldn't, never want to work with him anyway.
Dude, I feel like I've already shit the bed. It's like I just keep like posting things. I'm like, who am I blacklisting myself?
I've talked about with other people. I've talked about this on this show. There is no one I don't feel comfortable, speaking negatively against, because they're not the type of people I would want to work with anyways. And if that gets me blacklisted from the industry, then it's not an industry I want to be a part of anyways.
Damn right. You damn right. I'd rather have my like actual morals and like be a good person. And it turns out there are so many people here that, oh no, I burned that one bridge.
Oh, well, look, there's 20 other bridges
that have better morals and opportunities and whatever it is. I don't know. Like, it's just, the world is not as small as we think it is, and we need to be able to expand it. And the problem is they want to keep it in their cute little contained thing. And I think there's enough of us now that are outraged enough that I hope when we get back to work, we can actually do that work as well.
I hope so. I mean, the conversations are happening, which is a good start, but then conversations have to lead to action.
Yep. And they have to happen also in person, in the room, at the hard moments. Like, you got to have those hard conversations with your director, with your, with the people that scare you, and do it in a way that's productive. You don't have to be a dick about it. Like, there's a way to approach it, but you might have to. One of these days, you might have to be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't address that person that way. Like, just like, there's just things like, hey, maybe you should be touching that person's hair. And no one else is going to say it, so I'm just going to say it because I can tell them. Just little things like that, just to help people evolve.
Yep. If no one says anything, then how could they possibly know it's not the right thing to do?
Correct.
You got to speak out. So let's turn the corner a little bit, and if anything on this topic comes up, bring it up. I'm not saying we're done with this. I'm just saying let's refocus. So we like to get in a time machine and go back to the childhood and youth of whoever our guest is. And what's fascinating about you, and this is the first time we've had this experience, is you were on Broadway when you were 10 years old, and Les Mis, it's Gavroche. Right. So I can't even be so when in high school, what shows did you do? When did you know you wanted to do musical theater? You were in it from the get-go on Broadway in a great role, in a great musical. How did that happen? What was auditioning like? When did you know you wanted to do it? That's so thrilling that you were boom, 10 years old, Broadway.
It was truly wild. I was that kind of kid who, for I guess my first 6 or 7 years, my parents were trying to get me to do all kinds of things. I was doing all the sports and doing whatever. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I would always pretend to be other people around the house and stuff, like Indiana Jones or Batman or whatever. And so my parents would see this theatrical side of me. And a friend of mine when I was a kid was in some Target ad or something. And my mom one day was like, "Oh, that's cool that she's doing that." I was like, "Oh, that is cool." And I was showing a lot of interest. And she was like, "Would you be interested in something like that?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe." And so she took that and my mom ran with it and essentially found me this manager that was local. I'm from New Jersey. So she found us a manager who was based in New Jersey. And she ended up being like, "Well, yeah, let's send him on a few print auditions and see how he feels." And, I had to commute an hour into New York at that time. And then you get there. I mean, that's without traffic.
Sure.
And then you get to the audition and it's you're waiting and then they just take your picture and then you leave. And so I was like, And, I'm 8 or 7 or something. I was like, I don't understand angles or, I don't get it. And so I was like, that's kind of boring. I don't know if I liked that. And so my manager was like, "Well, what do you think about acting? Would you want to try that?" And I was like, "Nah, sure." And so at this point, I'm just like, I guess I'll try it. And I got a Burger King commercial and I booked that 4 weeks into auditioning.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up filming it actually at this church that's right by my current apartment, which I find is super odd. It's a beautiful, huge church cemetery thing, but it was a Toonsylvania Toys ad for Burger King. So it was me and this little girl trick-or-treating, and we get to the mansion and it's these cartoons and they're looking for candy, but they're pulling out body parts and stuff.
Oh.
So I had to act with a green screen and act with nothing. And, they were just like, "Okay, act surprised." And I was like, "Oh," you're a kid. You're like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Right. And from that, I did another commercial. I did a Chuck E. Cheese commercial after that. Just kept auditioning.
I would love to see these commercials, by the way.
The Burger King commercial still exists. If you look up Burger King Toonsylvania Toys from 1998.
I bet they're on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, everything is somewhere on YouTube these days.
They're there. But from there, I just kind of my manager then was like, "Hey, you have an audition for Les Mis on tour." And I had no idea what that is. My parents knew what it was. And they were like, "That's a really popular musical." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Okay." And I sang around the house. My parents are both singers. They're both musical. And they knew I could carry a tune, but I wasn't singing professionally or anything. And
sure.
So I went to this audition for Les Mis on the tour, and there's I don't know, 60 kids there. It's massive, this massive audition. And I go in and I sang something from The Lion King. I think I sang "I Just Can't Wait to Be King." I think that was my audition song. And they were like, "That was great. Can you come back and sing this material?" And they gave me the Gavroche stuff. And they said, "Hey, also watch the DVD of Les Mis." And so my parents rented it from Blockbuster. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And they found the one DVD that was there of Les Mis at the Blockbuster 2 towns away or whatever. And we watched it. And, the character I was auditioning for didn't enter the musical until about an hour and a half in. And so I'm sitting there watching the first hour. I'm getting tired. I fell asleep. And so I didn't really watch the movie. And so I didn't really know what the character was. And I was too young. I didn't have any context of preparing. I was like, I'll learn the song. I really don't know how I learned the song. I don't remember how I learned the music for the show. I think my dad definitely helped me with learning the song, but I didn't read music at the time. I guess I listened to the soundtrack. I actively do not remember how I did, but I did learn it. And auditioned. It went well. 6 months go by. I didn't hear anything. And my mom picks me up from school one day with a old throwaway camera. And I was like, what's that? And she's like, I want to see your reaction when I tell you this. Your manager just called. Les Miserables on Broadway said that they want you to replace the kid that's currently there. They want you to not go in for the tour. They want you to do the Broadway in New York. I was like, what? And she took like all these photos, and they're in a little photo album in the basement.
That's
so
amazing.
yeah. And like from there, like it was, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. And then I started work, and we saw the musical. My first night of work, I fell asleep again because I was 8. I was 8 years old.
And it's a long musical.
My bedtime was like 9:30. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't. Yeah. And I don't know. I rehearsed for 2 weeks. It's a 2-week put-in for anyone who joins the cast. So it was like the director and the stage managers put me into the show. I somehow learned it. I somehow learned the musical. And my parents were terrified when they first saw me in it, because they were like, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if he's going to, like, is he going to freeze? Can he sing? He can sing like this? And I apparently did it. And they were like very happy and stunned. And I was just, for me, it felt like everything I wanted to do, all the playing and imagination that I had. It's like it was a place for me to do that. And like, wow. And all these people are going to watch me pretend to be somebody else. And like, that's crazy. Like, and all these other people are going to act like other people too. That's so much fun. So it was like fun. It was like so much fun for me to be in musicals. And I knew pretty much right then that I was like, oh, I think this is what I want to be doing. And so then it was like, I still went to school every day, and had to get picked up early on Wednesdays to go do my matinee. And even
that was my next question. Do you remember what it was like balancing school and the show?
Yeah.
So you were just like at the school you went to. It wasn't like a tutor or anything.
No, I was in a Catholic school, so I was like, very regular Catholic school, sure. As regular as that can be.
Sure.
And one of my first middle school was kind of cool with me doing it, and then they got a little mad that I was missing a lot of school, so we had to find another middle school. So I had to transfer in like 7th grade, which was not fun because 7th graders are a little rough. Then I did like 2 years in that school, and then high school. But at that point, I was just working because as a kid actor, if you're like in the scene and working, there's like 10 or 15 of you, and you just kind of cycle around and like do the jobs that are around. So it's like, oh, you're doing Les Mis. Oh, I'm doing Beauty and the Beast. Oh, maybe we'll cross paths. Like a lot of people did Chip and then cross the street and did Gavroche and Les Mis. Like that was a thing for a lot of the kid actors. And it's also like, if you're a kid and you can emote and you can kind of like act the thing and be cute, like it's not as difficult to get a job as it is when you're like an adult in New York and everyone is immensely talented and trained. Right. And so I was like able to go from one kid role to like another kid role, and it was like always balancing school. So I had to find the schools that were cool with me. Like, yeah, Gerard might be a little tired. Like I would sometimes take naps in class, and teachers were very nice. I also had, I still do, I guess, but I was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid. And so I always was allowed like extra time on tests and stuff. And so I think on top of everything else, they're like, dude, whatever, you have like a full-time job at 9 or 10. It's cool. Like a lot of teachers were really very cool about it. Only when it got to like high school, when things got really tough and, the grades really matter for whatever colleges you're looking at, that it got a little tricky of like, well, when you're working on a show, you got to do tutoring because those classes are a little difficult. You can't miss that much school. Middle school, it's like you miss a math class, you'll figure it out. A couple days.
That makes sense.
But it was exhausting. My grandpa would take in for 2 show days on Wednesday because my parents were both teachers. So like, it was kind of a family affair, and I wouldn't really have been able to do it because like they have to drive you in and chill in New York. They can't like watch the show. If you have a ticket, they're not going to be able to watch the show. So they had to join the gym. They saw every movie that came out in like from between like 98 and like 2008 or whatever, whenever they stopped accompanying me to my jobs and stuff. But I think they loved it because it's like they were, New Yorkers too.
Yeah.
Go back to Jersey and be like, well, whatever, we're going to New York later. And it's
my son's on Broadway,
Yeah. Fine. Oh God. Fine. Yeah. Literally.
That's wow, that's such a
just like,
unique
yeah.
experience.
It just like snowballed, man. I don't even know. It's weird.
Yeah, because like right after Les Mis, you were doing Christmas Carol at the theater at Madison Square Garden for 2 years.
Two different seasons.
Yeah, for 2 seasons. What's awesome is you got to work with two people, one who I think is a great actor, and one who is my favorite people alive. So Frank Langella, who is just a world-class actor, and then fucking Tim Curry, who is like one of my all-time heroes. Do you have any memories working with them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have great memories of both of them. Frank was my first Scrooge, and so that was really like special. And I remember, like, I didn't really know who he was because I was 10, and so I wasn't very familiar with his work at all. Tim Curry, I knew who he was, but this was earlier. So my character was Jonathan, who gets the turkey for Scrooge at the end of Christmas Carol, and there's a whole scene in the musical where the character Jonathan knocks on his door. Scrooge is like elated, lets him in, and he's like acting crazy. And Jonathan's just like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Go get the turkey." And it's like a whole scene with just you and whoever the Scrooge is. And so like, that's so cool. I was like freaking out a little bit, but I was like, yeah, it's great. And Frank was like, he's so good at playing such an evil, mean, cold person. And he could not be further from that as a person. He is like the kindest, gentlest, sweetest man. And he took us out to, I'll never forget, he took all the kids out between shows one day to McDonald's for dinner, and then to Kmart, and he was like, buy whatever you want. And he was like, I'll buy you guys whatever you want, pick out something. And so we all got like little booty feety things, like little warm feety things, because it's wintertime. And he like bought like 12 of us this stuff, and he just like wanted to spend time with the kids. He was always around. He made an effort to be around us, which was like very, very lovely. Tim Curry, on the other hand, was very much like, he's at work. He's Tim Curry. He's a little strange. He's a little kooky. He was like smoking in his dressing room. Like they had to be like, "Hey, Tim, don't do that." And I don't think he was very fond of children. And so that year, the Wranglers had to keep us kind of away from Tim. And I also got a note to not upstage him in my scene because I was doing some pretty wild, stupid shit. Once again, I'm not like trained at this time. I'm just doing what I think. I'm impulsively doing stuff because you're still a kid and you have no inhibitions. And I would do shit like when he's running around, I'd be like doing that to the audience, like breaking the fourth wall. They're like, first of all, don't do that. Second of all, Tim doesn't want you upstaging him, so just try to chill. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. It's like that. Got it. But I mean, it was fun. We would play games in Christmas Carol when it got to the end of the run with this little rubber duck, and we'd pass it around in different props throughout the entire show. And sometimes you'd be stuck with it in the middle of your scene, and you're like, well, shit, now I just have this thing and I don't know how to get rid of it now. And you have to like figure out. And I somehow had it in my cup during my scene with Scrooge with Tim, and it's sitting there in the cup. And now I'm like freaking out because I'm like, shit, I can't just throw this on the ground. There's so many moving things. I have to keep this. I'm not going to put it in my pocket. I got to play the game. And so it's like in my cup, I do the thing. I'm like, he's going to fucking flip out. He's going to flip out. And he stops the scene and he looks at the chicken. He pulls it out of the cup and he goes, and just drops it in his box and like, we move on. I was like, oh. I was so relieved. I was so relieved.
I guess at the very least, he was a professional. He knew what he was doing.
He wasn't ever like mean or like miserly, but you know, some people just don't want a bunch of kids running around them.
I get it.
I get it too. It's, and he had a hard job. He's playing Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. It's a pretty big part.
It is. I definitely remember my parents taking me to see it at the theater at Madison Square Garden. I just don't know what year, but I remember it being such a lavish production.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorite productions.
Like the way it angles, and they had like sets extending out to the sides. I have like memories of it. I just don't remember what year, but
we could like enter through the actual sides of the theater through different buildings and houses. There were 3 different actual buildings that were built that like moved from side to side that opened up and revealed inward. And then for different, past, present, future, sometimes they were decorated differently. It's wild. It was wild.
I love that space. I just hate the seats there. It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For theater, like for concerts, it's great. But when they try and do theater there now, you're like, oh, fix these chairs.
Yeah.
So, you've talked a little bit about how you're doing all this. You don't have training. And I know you did like King and I want to say Paper Mill, and you went on a tour of Casper, the musical. At any point, did you do training? Did you get like vocal training or acting training?
Not really. I mean, through it, I worked with some vocal coaches when I was doing Prince and the Pauper off Broadway because I developed nodes when my voice was changing, and I was still hitting like high D's and trying to hit those like full voice, but my voice was like, stop. So I definitely shredded my chords and worked with the wonderful, talented Joan Lader, who was an amazing voice therapist, and she basically, I don't know how, but I didn't have to have any surgery. She coached me through how to like warm up, cool down, do exercises to strengthen and also like soothe, and how to like, I don't know, just like how to take care of yourself and be on as much vocal rest as you could as a 12-year-old. I mean, I was like, I was so young, but I would do the musical, and then at the end of the night, I would sound like Joe Cocker. Like, no lie. My parents would be like, how was the show? And I'd be like, oh, it's pretty good. Like no tone at all. And then somehow wake up and maybe have a voice, maybe not. My understudy did like half the shows. It was kind of a nightmare. But so through that, I definitely got a lot of like knowledge about my voice and like my vocal cords and like little tricks and techniques. But for the most part, I'm pretty much self-taught. I like a lot of my acting experience. What I feel like I learned the most was when I was in Spring Awakening, because I had so much time to observe not only the process of building the musical, building those characters, but also watch how it evolves every night and watch every character's arc change. And like certain actors really played with the immediacy of the evening. Some actors have their show that they do. Like everyone has their own process and things that work for them. Some people have their show and it works and they're hitting their beats and it's genuine. It works for them and it works every time. And then some people change it up. I'm of the change it up thing, because I definitely go from like how I'm feeling it at the time instead of like, how can I get there? It's more of just like, I already know that I can get there. It's just like, how far am I going to be today? Which I thought was such an interesting thing. Somebody who is like, I think the master of that from that musical was Gallagher, John Gallagher Jr., who won a Tony for his performance as Moritz. He was just, I mean, aside from being perfect for that part, he brought so much more depth to it. Oh, Danny Paul, what's up, baby boy? It was my dresser.
Awesome.
On many productions, actually. I love Danny Paul. Love you, DP. But yeah, man, that show, you get to sit on the side as an ensemble member and watch great actors do great work the whole time. And so and directors that are directing them, and Steven Spinella and Christine Esterbrook. Like, are you joking? This is
perfect, because
I could have ever gotten.
Spring Awakening was my next topic. So anyone who knows me knows what an impact the show had on me. I wouldn't have met my wife Elizabeth if not for Spring Awakening. I got a Spring Awakening tattoo. I saw it like 25 times. It like changed my life in a lot of ways. I always loved theater, but I don't think I would be working in the theater if not for this show. This is the one that like lit the spark, so to speak. But what I love about the ensemble, and you started the ensemble, and for those who didn't get the chance to see it, in the original Broadway production, the ensemble wore like street clothes. They would come in just like audience members because they had onstage seating on both sides. And the ensemble members would sort of just blend in with the people who had bought onstage seating. And then all of a sudden they'd start singing.
Yeah, it was super fun.
I'm sure you have some stories about like surprised audience members or people freaking out. Oh,
yeah. I have so many. I have a couple that are fun. First of all, that whole like when we were figuring it out, because they didn't do that off Broadway. On Broadway, they added that. So the four of us were kind of like, well, how can we make this as authentic as possible? Because it wasn't really discussed like, how would we enter? When would we be there? Are we going to just be there from the top when people enter? Like, that's weird. Do we enter from the stage? Because that kind of gives it away. So we had the idea to get like tickets to enter through the house, have the ushers seat us. And like, that was kind of all of our like little ideas. And then you'd like sit kind of whenever. I would go down there around 5 or like even places, because I just didn't like want to sit in that wooden chair for longer than 2.5 hours because it hurts. But there was one night I remember I was sitting I sat in like the upstage corner, and another cast member would sit a little bit downstage of me and in the row below me. And we would sometimes like look at each other and like laugh about whatever. And so I'm like trying to keep in a laugh. And I guess I do like I don't know, something like that. And this guy turns around and he's like got this coiffed hair thing. And he's like, "Did you just cough in my hair, bro?" And I was like, No, I did not. I'm sorry, I didn't. He's like, well, you just felt like you just caught my hair, man. I don't know. It's and he like wouldn't stop. And I was like, no, man, I didn't. I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And he was just like being a dick. And so I was like, So I got up, I went off stage and talked to stage manager. And I was like, hey, there's a guy harassing me. And they had to walk out with me, and like they took him off the stage. And
Oh, wow.
he had to sit in the audience in like the house. And then I think some of his friends stayed there, and they were like all pissy that like I was sitting there. And then, you don't start singing till like 25 minutes in. So they were a little pissy towards me for like the beginning of the show. And then I started singing, and you could see them all go, oh. I don't think they realized that I was even working when I went off stage to be like, hey, that guy sucks. Like,
Sure.
They didn't put that together. I've also broken a lot of chairs. I broke like many wooden chairs during Totally Fucked because I was just jump on the chair. And so they had to give me they had to make like metal reinforcements. I broke one of those too, but
I sat on those chairs a couple of times. They were not comfortable, and they never felt sturdy.
No, well, yours, the audience chairs were not, and that's why they had to give us like the ones they used for Bitch of Living, which are basically made of metal because you can just like jump and flip around.
Right. So when you started in that show, were you at that time covering all the male roles other than Melchior from the get-go?
Yeah, from the jump, that was my title. I was pretty ignorant to covering and understudying, so I was like, guess I'll focus on Moritz, and guess I'll focus on another character that I feel like is more like me. Like I disregarded certain characters. Like by the time I went on, I was ready, but I had not done a run through or tried to like step through the character that I went on for, because I was like, why would they put me on before they put Robbie on for that? It makes more sense for him because equal opportunity, whatever. And so I went on for Hanshin my first time, and I totally I don't know how I did it. Like I never stepped through it once. I just watched it a lot. And so I picked up on it. And that show was,
of all the roles, that's the one probably least like you.
So I'm saying, I was like, I wasn't prepared, but I was thrown into it, and I was prepared as much as I could be. And they found so much joy in the fact that I was so small compared to Gideon.
Yeah, Gideon's a tall dude.
I thought it was hilarious. And then when Blake Daniel joined the company, same thing. He's like even taller.
Yeah, even taller. Yeah.
Every time I went on as Hanshin with them, it was always like, that was kind of the angle. He's just like this weird forward, like little guy. Like, what do you do? Jesus. Like, oh God. Like that was kind of the angle we worked with. But I was so young that I felt very much not like, I didn't have that, like, I wasn't able to capture the sex of Hanshin as much as I wanted to, I guess, but what can you do?
Yeah. So I'm sure your experience in Spring Awakening probably helped with Be More Chill, because that show had like a really passionate young fan base. You had people sleeping on the street to get Rush tickets.
Yeah.
And then you guys won the Tony. I'm sure it was just a whirlwind of new experiences for probably everybody involved.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Be More Chill was unlike anything I've really ever done before for many reasons. I mean, it was wild. It was truly insane. But Spring Awakening we had the sleeping on the street, and we had the devoted fans, and it was definitely the hit. It won the Tony. It won a bunch of Tonys. Yeah. It was a big deal. But I was being in the ensemble. I didn't get a lot of that. I didn't get affected by a lot of it. I was kind of able to slip in and out of the stage door. I could kind of just exist at the show. I wasn't dealing with like the interviews and the press and like can't walk home. Eventually it got there because people find out who the understudies are, and they like their performances or whatever. And, sometimes people would cross the line, but not a lot. We had a lot of really wonderful fans on that show. Sometimes they would just like wait to see you, and they haven't even watched the show. They just wanted to like hang out afterward and say hi. And it was kind of the same thing with Be More Chill, but Be More Chill was like times 1,000, because now we had this internet database that was the whole reason the show became half of what it could have been. I mean, it was a great show, but when I did it at Two River Theater in New Jersey, I was like, yeah, this is niche as fuck. And like, I think it's great. That's why I'm doing it. And like, yeah, I could see it having a long life at some awesome off-Broadway house. Hopefully somebody bites. And then we like didn't get anything. And so like that launch that happened later where I started getting all these followers and everyone in the cast was like, are you guys seeing this? It was like, we all kind of had to be like, well, let's do something about it. And then George Salazar did something about it.
Yep.
And took interviews. And then like the numbers were piling up, social media everywhere. Like I was getting crazy amounts of followers and trying to deal with this like newfound exposure, being the person that I am. Like you're saying, I am very outspoken. I am very no holds barred. That's just who I've always been. And you find out very quickly on social media when you have other people that you don't realize are following you, you can't really be as, as outspoken as maybe you'd like to be in a certain way. But so I've learned some hard lessons that way.
Sure.
But because like we weren't prepared for that. I was in the ensemble of Groundhog Day thinking this was it. Like I was like, well, I guess I'll just be a workhorse like this, and then Be More Chill happens, and I had this opportunity to like create a character again, and like, and what a cool show. And so Off Broadway happens. We still are like, yeah, I guess people want to see it. We sell out before we even open the entire run. That first preview, we get out there and everyone's dressed up like us in the audience.
I was there. It was electric as fuck.
The amount of people dressed up like us was wild to me. I was like, now I'm actually seeing it. I'm seeing the fan base. It's not just numbers on a screen. It's real live human beings, and they're all right here in front of me. And then there'll be more tomorrow and the next day. And that was like, then they all had a certain connection to different characters or parts of the show. And so now I'm like, oh, this is what it's like. And it was profound, man. It was a lot to handle, to be honest.
Other than a few very minor instances, I had never seen cosplaying to that extent in a Broadway theater.
It was wild. It was wild. And that was like so cool when you started seeing it around like Times Square, people dressed up with their creep shirt and stuff. I was like, wow, we're actually like,
people like hand making their Michael Mel hoodies, like to the detail. I'm like, good for you. But I want to jump back to Spring Awakening. So towards the end of the run, you got to take over as Mort's full time.
Yeah.
And for what my opinion is worth, you were excellent. I thought I got to see you go on many times, and you were probably my favorite, other than Johnny.
Thanks.
Just because he won the Tony, he originated it. But your voice,
the guy is amazing. Like
for someone who doesn't have any training, your voice is incredible.
Thank you.
And I thought you were so great in that role, and you brought such good energy and angst to it. Do you remember when they were like, okay, it's yours now for good?
Yeah, there was a moment in like, I guess it was like, I did that show for the entire run, which was about 2.5 years, I guess. And there was a point, I guess about a year and a half in, where people were leaving. The cast was starting to shift. A lot of the ensemble understudies had left. Haha, cool. Come on, Liz. People were leaving, and I was kind of like, well, I was part of this first wave of cast, and maybe I shouldn't sit here for another year in this ensemble chair. I don't have a job, but like, maybe I should just see. I don't know. I feel like if I just stay here, it's going to like hurt my chances of maybe booking something while I'm like relevant at the moment. I don't know, whatever my reasoning was. And I think the producers caught wind of this information that like people were shifting and thinking of leaving. So they called this big meeting for all the understudies. And we basically just had to show up to the theater, and one by one, they called us into the house. It was our producers, Tom Hulse, Ira Pittleman, our director, Michael Mayer, our music director, Kim Grigsby.
Yes. For those who don't know, Tom Hulse from Amadeus, one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion.
Correct.
One and only.
Yeah.
And Quasimodo and Hunchback.
And Quasi.
Yes.
But they sat me down in the theater, and they were like, and a few people went before me, and they were like, yeah, basically they told me, I'm the ensemble still. And like, I'm like, okay, great. So I go in, they're like, so we're going to be real with you. The reason we wanted to call this meeting is because we had heard that like you were thinking of leaving, and we wanted to make sure that you guys had a proper understanding of what your futures were going to be as understudies, as ensemble members. We understand why you're feeling the way you do, and so we want to give you transparency. But we don't know when, but we know it's going to happen within the next 6 months. But we would like you to be our next Moritz once Blake Bashoff leaves. We already know that we're going to be hiring a Melchior, and we think you would go great. And so we don't have an exact date, but we do know that when he leaves, you will get the offer. And so I was like, okay, so that means I could potentially be sitting here for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months. And so I obviously was like, yeah, okay. And God damn it, they fucking followed through. And I was the next Moritz once Blake left, and it was insane. It was like truly, I don't know. I felt very overwhelmed and underprepared, and I have imposter syndrome like nobody's business. So even though I love that part, I've done that role before, I had gotten to do it 5 or 6 times. It still is such an undertaking. It's a big deal, man. It's hard. Yeah. Leading a show in any capacity is very difficult. And that show is no exception, especially because there was so much hype around that part. So I had a lot of back and forth with the creatives about how to do it, and things that they wanted me to do that Johnny did that I was like, that's not me, man. Like, I don't know. And so once we sort of found a middle ground and I was being left alone, then I was able to like find my Moritz and do it how I wanted to do it. And I do remember the day that Michael came back and was like, that was it. That was it. And I was like, I felt like being like, I know, man, I was trying to do that the whole time, but like, I get it. It's cool. Like, and I will say, man, Michael after that he gave me the Idiot opportunity. We did the Brooklynite thing together. Like, sure. We worked together so many times. And I feel like that was my education, dude. He was hard on me. People were hard on me in that show because I think they believed that I was capable of understanding my techniques more. And so really I did learn while doing Spring Awakening. And I will always cherish that for sure.
That's a challenging role.
Oh God.
It's really I would say the emotional center of the piece.
Yeah.
And those songs, they have a wide range and you have to go into some serious, like true rock vocals.
Yeah. I mean, luckily I love singing rock music. That's my, number one favorite thing to do. The acting part of it was something that, thanks DP. He was my dresser on that show. Danny Paul took very, very good care of me the entire time. Straight up like treats and snacks and water bottles and all the good stuff, man. And always be there with like a towel to wipe my sweaty face after I did Don't Do Sadness or something. But it's one of those shows where you like carry the weight of the character with you throughout your entire day and night, because like even after I did the scene, did the Don't Do Sadness scene, I would go off stage and just like think about everything and just be like in a space and like, ugh, and I'm like, Gerard, just let it go. You did it. It happened. Tomorrow's a new day. Like we can move forward from all the second guessing. But it's you're given responsibility at 19 years old like that. That's like, it's a pretty scary thing. But I'm thankful for it. Very, very thankful for it.
Yeah, and spoiler alert to those who aren't familiar, but you had to commit suicide on stage every night.
Sure did.
Which I can't imagine is an easy thing emotionally to have to go through. Even if you're able to separate yourself from the character, that's still something I know, at least for me, would weigh on me a lot.
Yeah, it does. There's certain parts that like you have to approach differently, I think. I don't have just like one way in. I feel like depending on the character and depending on the weight and depending on the workload, there are certain ways that you actually can't get in that maybe you could with another character. With Moritz, you very much had to live in that space. Like intermission was hard because you have to get your hair done and you're in the hair chair, you're in the room and everybody's buzzing. And you have to try and think about the next time you walk on stage is you're about to put a gun in your mouth. And that is your motivation. When you enter that scene, you are going to kill yourself. And so it's like going from intermission to that was always like my most nerve-wracking, probably 15, 20 minutes.
Sure.
But once we got in there and, the scene work with whoever was Ilsa, it was mostly Emma Hunton with me at the time. We had such a good rapport.
In Cruel Intentions, the musical.
Oh, yeah.
She was so hilarious and rad in that. She's the best.
Dude, she's the bomb. I miss her very much. But yeah, man, it taught me so many things. I have lifelong friends, lifelong relationships. Like truly, like I still walk by the Eugene O'Neill Theater and get butterflies thinking about it.
To a certain extent, I do too, because it's sort of like my origin story in this whole mess too, to a point. Yeah, and it's been so fun to see how pretty much, say 90% of everyone who was involved in that show has gone on to have such incredible careers.
Yeah, it's nice to see, man. It's good to see when good people work.
Everyone from Johnny to Groff. Skylar has had a hell of a career.
Dude, yeah.
I've known Skylar a long time. He and I went to sleepaway camp together when we were like 13. So to see him.
Was it Frenchwoods?
No, it was a sports camp called Winnendu in Massachusetts.
Got it. Yeah, that's right.
where he and I would always do the singing and everyone else would be doing basketball and shit. So, but yeah, it's just like everyone really has had such an incredible career. I'm assuming this person is related to you. They say I cried every time you did.
That's my mom.
Oh, hi, Gerard's mom.
Hi, Mom.
Thank you for watching. Yeah, God. And so then American Idiot was like pretty much right after to a certain point.
Yeah, directly. I did the workshop while I was doing Moritz in Spring Awakening. So that was pretty interesting because I was like, Brian Johnson, who was Otto, did the first reading of it and he told me about it. And I was like super jealous because for those of you who don't know, I'm like Green Day was my all-time favorite band growing up, and they still hold a very close place in my heart for very obvious reasons.
Yes.
But I was like obsessed, and so I was like, "Tell me everything. Tell me every day what you do, what you sing." He's like, "Yeah, I get to sing Novocaine." I'm like, "You get to sing Novocaine?" I'm like freaking out. And I guess Michael had asked him after the first reading, like, "Hey, do you know any guys who?" We need to round out the ensemble because we want to do a proper workshop. You know any guys who would fit? He was like, well, I know Gerard like lives and breathes Green Day. He would die for them. So you should probably ask him. And I got the call from the casting office and they were like, hey, G, and they had the same people who cast Spring Awakening. They're like, hey, G, so we're checking your availability for the Untitled Punk Project. And I fell to the floor. Like, I remember, I know what that is. Nobody else is doing a punk musical at this time. They were the only one. And so I fully laid out on the floor and I was like, yeah, let me just check my schedule. Let me just see real quick if I'm free. Meanwhile, like I'm just like dying inside. I'm not looking at anything. I'm just like, yeah, looks like I'm available. I could totally be there for that. And man, it like did the workshop. The workshop happened to land at the time that I was playing Moritz. So that was like, I would be in rehearsal all day, like a 10 to 6 situation, and then go do my night show. Obviously I get to leave for the matinee on Wednesdays and Saturdays, but it was, we were building the musical, and anyone who saw American Idiot knows that we were just like dancing for like an hour and a half. And so it's just a full day of just like dancing, screaming, skrelting, ass kicking. It's one of the hardest shows I've ever done in my entire life, if not like the hardest. Just like stamina wise, sometimes you felt like you were going to die.
That show was nonstop.
But I was so young
and it just went and went and went.
I was lucky. I don't know, man. If I was, I guess I'd be able to do it. But like Be More Chill was definitely hard too. But I just think about if I had to do like Halloween from Be More Chill for an hour and a half, that was what American Idiot was. It was just nonstop.
I had wanted to fly out to Berkeley to see it, and I didn't get that chance. But I was at the first preview, not knowing what to expect. I was a Green Day fan from a kid, too. I saw them on tour all the time.
And everybody expected it to suck, too. Like, everybody was ready
Disaster tour with them and Blink-182, which is still like one of the highlights of my life, seeing those two bands together. And we'll get into Blink-182 in a little bit because I know you have some shit with them, too. But it's like, is this going to work? I don't know. And then, like, those first punk chords start on the guitar and the lights and the set, and I was just like, they nailed it. It was fucking dope as hell. And like the fucking energy, like you said, it was a rock show in a musical. And yeah, there have been other rock musicals. There have been other great rock musicals, but I had never seen a rock musical like American Idiot was a punk rock musical. And there hasn't been anything since like that. Nah,
I don't think so either. And it's, I mean, for us, it was like, we were just living it. It was what we did. And it definitely felt badass. You're definitely like, yeah, I'm an American Idiot. Yeah, I'm about to go do the show. And you're like, no matter how tired or whatever, because like also I'm like at this time between the ages of 20 and 21, I'm at the height of my like youth and like raging, and I'm in this fucking show that's just like encouraging like recklessness. And so like I'm not exactly taking the best care of myself on a day-to-day basis, and then I have to go do this fucking show. And so it's like you're so just like tired. It's like a Sunday matinee or something, and you're like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this? And then you're on stage and those chords start and you're just like, yeah, and you're just in. Like there's no turning back. You're just like, well, fuck it. Now I'm here. I am. Got to do it now. And amazingly, it just takes over you, and somehow you did the show. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was wild.
And you got to work with some really cool people. Obviously, the original cast was great, but then they kept replacing St. Jimmy. Obviously, Billy came and did it for a while, which I'm sure was a dream come true.
Hell yeah.
I got to see Melissa Etheridge do it, which worked really well. And I still have the guitar. I had won the lotto, so I was in front row. I still have the guitar pick she gave me after.
Yeah.
And then fucking Davey Havoc. I loved AFI, and when they were like, Davey Havoc's coming, I was like, oh shit. And his vocals on that were killer. So you got to work with some incredible people on that show.
I geeked when I heard Davey was joining the company.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't even in it. I was like, I gotta go see this.
And the gag is he geeked about Broadway just as much as we geeked about AFI. Like I played a festival, a Firefly festival a couple of years ago with my cover band, the Dude Ranch and tribute band. Sorry, and AFI was also on the bill. And I was like, cool, what time are you playing? And we were playing at the exact same time. And so I was like, well, it's either going to be the AFI concert or the Dude Ranch concert. So pick one. And it was a good turnout for us, luckily. But after the show, they were expecting to leave. But they were like, well, we actually have to stay for X, Y, and Z. Davey spent the entire night just talking to me about theater, asking me about what kind of shows I'm working on, like how is everyone doing? Like, man, I don't know how you do that. Musicals are so great. Like, he is like just the sweetest, like little, like lovely, gentle, another like person that goes on stage and just like shreds. That guy screams like from his butt, like he's in there.
Yep.
And then he's just like off stage, just very kind and approachable and gentle, and has beautiful tattoos. And just like, yeah, dude, he was just gagged. He was like thrilled to be there. He was just, every day he would watch from the wings before he entered, just like big smile on his face. Like Billy did the same thing. He'd watch the show from the wings too. And damn right.
You have to love that too, because I mean, that shows so much appreciation for a totally different art form. That's a similar art form. And I love that, hear that, you know, like, because sometimes you hear less desirable things with actors who might be trying to make that transition. Yeah. So when you hear something similar going the other direction, it's like, yes, they fucking get it.
It's awesome, dude. It's art. Like, we all want to see art create. Like, Davey is an artist. He is an artist through and through. His lyrics, his writing, his different projects that he works on, his soundscapes, like the things that he creates, he's an artistic guy. He appreciates the beauty of it. And there's like, you can go on stage and be hard as fuck and also be a sweet, gentle person. That is a possible thing. And that's what I love about it. You don't have to be a dick. Also, I like your Coheed and Cambria tattoo.
Oh, thank you. Dude, oh my God. It's my favorite
not
band
everyone
of all time.
notices what it is, so that's points to you.
I love
Dude,
Coheed. I love Coheed.
Gerard and I are going to be best friends when this is over.
There you go. Game over.
Game over.
So I only have one other question about American Idiot. So as an audience member, that's still the loudest musical I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Were you guys wearing earplugs on stage to mitigate that, or did you just let your ears bleed?
Nah, no earplugs. We asked about like in-ears and stuff like that, but the technology wasn't really up. The money, that's really expensive. It's really expensive.
It is, yeah.
And it's also like, dude, when we rehearsed at the studio, like with the full band since we were creating the show. So by the time we got to the venue, also, to be fair, on stage is not what you guys are experiencing.
Sure.
It was loud as fuck for you guys. For us, it was definitely loud because we have a live band on stage. But like,
yeah, the speakers are facing out, not
if you're not
towards you.
standing next to the drummer, you're not going to be blaring. It's not going to be terrible. But also, I'm a drummer, so I didn't care about that.
You're a damn good drummer. Don't sell yourself short.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, just I don't know. I also felt it was like, it's punk rock. It's fucking loud.
For sure.
Yeah. We didn't want it to be. We didn't want it to be quiet. The only thing I wish we had were like the vocals on stage, and like that's just a difficult thing for musicals to do because it's just hard. Like a lot of times you don't get your own monitor mix for vocals. You just get band and side monitors. We had some monitors in the floor, but yeah, I mean, we just got used to not really hearing yourself and just knowing your parts.
Yeah, I love that show. Honestly, like I'll find myself listening to the Cast album more than the Green Day album because the fucking
the
orchestrations that Tom Kitt did them were gorgeous.
Yeah, Tom Kitt's a genius. We love.
I don't want to like bring up Salt, but the fact that he wasn't nominated for his orchestrations that year to me was like fucking.
Well, that show we got shafted that year.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, you're gonna give Addams Family shit and not American Idiot. What the hell are you doing, guys?
We just didn't get we had a nomination for best musical and then like best set and best lighting. Which like, don't get me wrong, those are great aspects of our show. Yeah. But how do you nominate a best musical and not nominate the choreography, the actors, the director, I felt Tony Vincent really. Well, anyways.
I was going to say that
just dumb at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I was going to say that just kind of comes down to sometimes the out of touch nature of people with music.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, and art in general, because we see it with movies too. In the Oscars, like, you always know when those movies come out, you know exactly what they're going to go to. They overlook a lot of other things because they look for very specific.
They did Parasite Best Picture, which is fucking awesome. So
yes, well, we're changing, and let's hope.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
It's American Idiot's one of the few like modern shows that I think would be suited for a revival now, because I think it's almost more relevant to what's been going on than it was in the Bush era, frankly.
Yes. And we had Trump on our intro for the musical, and he was also at our opening night for some fucking reason. And I remember Billy we have a documentary we made called Broadway Idiot, and Billy,
it's real good. If you guys haven't seen it, you should watch Broadway Idiot for sure. It's dope.
It's quite good. Billy talks about it. They pan to it. They're like, yeah, we had all these celebrities there, and fucking Donald Trump. I still don't know what the fuck he was doing there. I was like, yeah, I'm glad we got that in.
I mean, back then he tried so desperately to have any sort of relevance in popular culture. So
anywhere, yeah, it's true. But yeah, I mean, it just works.
Home Alone too.
So after Idiot, you did Bear?
Yeah, I guess so.
I love Bear. I was familiar when Michael Arden did it, and then they did the CD that Matt Doyle was on.
Yeah, Doyle did that when we were in Spring Awakening together.
You worked with Spring Awakening, and then you got to do it, although your version was quite different. They had made some changes.
Very different.
But what was your experience? Did you enjoy working on Bear? I think that music's gorgeous.
I did. I loved that show. Once again, it was another situation where I was in the workshops for the new revival version. We had done a few readings of it and things like this, but never really fleshed it out until right before we did the production. And I loved it. I mean, I had a great time. All of those company members also went on to do some pretty fucking awesome things. And
Taylor Trench was in there with you, and he's obviously had a hell of a career.
Yeah, and I couldn't complain, man. I loved my role. I loved getting to sing "Are You There" with Taylor, and in the readings, Andy Mientus did it for a while too, so that was fun. And I mean, the part, Matt is a complicated guy, but he's ultimately just he's driven by his impulses to be a dick. And so that was the beginning of me getting all these roles where I play a douchebag, I guess.
I was going to say not dissimilar from Rich Garansky.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. But, Matt does some pretty shitty things in that musical that I had to come to terms with as a person. Yeah, it's true. I don't know.
Hi, Lucy. Everyone say hi to Lucy.
This is Lucy. Hi, baby. Thank you.
So pretty.
Yeah, she's a good girl. But that was one of those shows that everybody felt very the fan base was so precious about it, and everyone had a lot of opinions about how it should be, and a lot of the changes I think made some people upset. I'm proud of what we did. I like what we did, and I think it's the perfect version. I don't think anybody can say that about any show. There's aspects of the original production that I really liked, and there's aspects of our production that I really enjoyed. I thought that it catered to the people that they cast. I thought having Missy Pyle in there with her, using her as her strengths and stuff was very smart. I thought that character was great. And overall the experience was fun. I mean, it was off Broadway at New World Stages. So it's everyone, I love New World Stages. Everyone's in one dressing room, and then there was a curtain, and then the girls were in that one dressing room. It was there was no actual wall separating us. So we were all just very much on top of each other the whole time.
You've been to New World Stages, PJ. I took you to see the play that goes wrong there. That place is cool.
It was great. I had such a good time. That's literally the last thing that I saw before COVID. Because I was in New York in December and January, and Maxwell and I went to a bunch of stuff, and then I flew back here. And then our live show, the show we were telling you about before we started, we were in Atlanta literally the weekend before everything happened. We had a live show. And so I just it's so weird from January to February. That was all I could think about was the last thing we saw was that. Then I went to Atlanta, which was one of the hot spots. And then this.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, COVID, man. I was involved in Endlings at New York Theater Workshop, and we had our opening night, and I loved it. Yeah. And then we had to close after 8 performances. And I think it's okay that I say this, about 3 or 4 people at opening night ended up getting COVID. So I was super worried.
Oh, no.
Because it was March 9th, right before. So
yeah, I was on tour. I was in DC on the 13th playing a show. Yeah, I had to drive back.
So we did a show on this network pretty early on in COVID where we all talked about our favorite musicals. It wasn't part of Front Center Mez, but it was a part of a different show we do. And we had on this chick named Video Drew, and she listed 21 Chump Street as one of her favorite musicals of all time. And when you're coming on, I was like, we got to ask him about it. It's only 14 minutes. It's Lin-Manuel, but it's so fun.
Yeah, it was. That was fucking awesome. Another Michael Mayer experience too. Like, thank you, Michael. And
it keeps on giving.
And yeah, truly, man. And it was my first time working with Lin professionally, but I'd known Lin like when I was in Spring Awakening and he was doing Heights. Like we were all at Broadway bowling together, and the whole thing. And so we had been friendly in the scene, but I'd never done his musicals. Like I'm not exactly a rapper or anything. Like there was no reason for me to do anything he was writing. I don't get hired to do R&B hip hop musicals usually. Now that might change just because more people are writing that kind of a thing. But at that time, he was kind of the only guy hustling that shit out, and like for good reason. Don't ask me to do those things. But they asked me to do Chump Street, and I thought that was a really good experience. And like, I thought I just loved the opportunity and to work with him. And then Anthony Ramos at that point was literally just like, he was a New York native. He was doing the Hamilton workshop, and he was the lead of this Chump Street thing. And I remember watching him work and being like, whoa. This kid has this like wild spirit that's just like unabashedly held, like he's not held back at all. He is out there. He's so vulnerable, and just like, he is just so willing to give. Like I've never really quite seen anything out of someone that was like, our age, that was really there. And like with minimal, like professional big time experience. And then he was telling me about Hamilton. And I'm asking him like, well, who do you play? He's like, well, yeah, I was like, you have a good part, right? Like, I didn't know shit about it. And he was like, yeah, I played Lin's son. And then I played his like best friend. I was like, oh, fuck, you got like a big ass part. And I told my agents about it, and they're like, oh, the Hamilton workshop, that was one of the best. That was the best show I've ever seen. And it wasn't even a show. I was like, oh, damn. Okay. And you're my agent and you're saying that? Because like agents don't like anything usually. Sure. And so it was very interesting to me, but I get it. I got it. And now to see that he's getting all this like admiration, recognition, it means the world to someone like me who likes to watch the good people succeed. He is the goodest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's so talented. PJ and I have talked about how like the one movie where the most upset got delayed because of COVID is In the Heights, because I just know he's going to kill it. I know he's going to be perfect.
They filmed in my hood too. They were like right up here. I tried to go see him. And I couldn't for whatever reason, but he was like filming right around the corner. Like,
I still watch that trailer like every other day.
Oh, it's so great.
So much joy.
Yeah, I'm stoked. But it was cool, man. It was like a furious, like Lin wrote it in a week. It was commissioned for NPR to do live at BAM. So it was all these NPR stories. It was based on a true story, word for word interview between a kid who sold pot to an undercover cop in his high school. And he was basically led to do that by the cop. And the cop was portrayed by Lindsay Mendez. We had Alex Boniello, me, and Antoine Hawley as the ensemble of kids. And then Anthony was the main kid, and Lin was basically Ira Glass, dressed up just like Ira Glass too. And it was fully 15 minutes sung through. He wrote it, he said, in like a week. We showed up, we rehearsed it with his fire band and like did it in a couple days. Lauren Lataro did the choreography. We're at this like run through, and like Mike Birbiglia's over here. They got some like crazy film TV actors over here doing a play. And then we come up and do our musical, and it's like everyone's just like from different walks of art. And we're all just hanging out at BAM doing this thing. And we performed for all these people. And then it was over and documented. And Lin was like, let's make an album. And luckily the album is helping people discover it, which is great. And it's on film. I think it's still on YouTube. Yeah,
it's definitely still on YouTube. But you guys should check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a lot of fun.
It's rad. I had a great time. It's some of the best material I ever worked on, and the fact that he wrote it in like 5 minutes is mad.
I mean, I've heard through the grapevine that he's a pretty good writer.
Oh, yeah, I've heard the same.
I think the Pulitzer people would also agree.
I think they would agree.
So I don't know if everyone knows this, but you were with Dear Evan Hansen at Second Stage.
Yes.
Understudying Evan Hansen. Did you get to go on?
No, I didn't go on. Didn't go on, but I covered the hell out of him. God damn it. I was ready. We did a lot of rehearsing. I did a lot of sitting backstage waiting for it. But, the cool thing about that space is they had the layout of the stage was taped out in a rehearsal room that exists where the dressing rooms are at second stage. So during the show, there was a monitor in that room. We just turn the monitor on, and I'm just doing the show along with whoever, like it's usually Evan, because that's the heaviest workload. So we would all as understudies kind of gather and like be like, you want to run through it tonight? Yeah, sure, let's do it. And so we'd be able to like run it in real time, which was really nice. And then you start to feel like, okay, there's only so much work I can do on my own. I did a day or two with Greif to focus on like particulars, and I got to do a put in. And it was great. Like I worked really well with Michael Greif, and that was something that is a dream come true for me.
Sure.
He was a director that I highly admired always, and I never got the chance to work with him, and I was always very intimidated by him because I think he's quite brilliant, and I think his intensity as a director speaks for itself. And so you want to honor that, and you want to take it seriously. And so my sessions with him were very, very great, and like I just wanted to learn, man. I wanted to learn from him and see all the things I could gather. And I have zero negative experiences working on that show, which is great.
And your voice is in the Broadway production. I'm
all over that thing. And luckily, thank God, they use it in the show and in the tour, and residuals are a real thing. So that's good news. But there's tons of Broadway favorites in that virtual community.
Yes,
if you see Dear Evan Hansen and look in the playbill, that's a fun little game to look at all the names and see like, oh God, that resume. Oh my God, that resume. And they're saying like 2 lines in Evan Hansen. So that was the caliber, but that's the caliber of people they have working on that show. And Greif actually was uber sweet. I booked Groundhog Day while I was doing Evan Hansen off Broadway. I didn't tell them. I was waiting to see if they were going to give me a Broadway offer. And so then I was going to decide what it was. So Greif calls me one day. I already had the Groundhog Day offer. And he says, hey, so just so you know, you're going to be getting an offer, and I'm not sure if you're going to like it, so I'm just going to let you know what it is, and just so you know. And they told me that I would be the main cover for Gerard and Connor, secondary cover for Evan. They wanted to go younger. I was like, okay. And I thought about it, and I deliberated, and he was like, and just so you know, whatever you say, we will not hold it against you. And this decision has nothing to do with any of the work that you did or whatever. Like, he was so kind that he called me to tell me this stuff, to be like, hey, if you decide not to take it, no hard feelings, basically. I was like, well, fuck. And eventually I did not take it. I took Groundhog Day instead, which I don't regret. I had a great time. That show was hard, and it was definitely a job, but I don't regret doing it. I don't regret not taking Evan Hansen. And I think like Colton and Michael, right? Did a wonderful job filling that seat. So, and Michael ended up taking over and doing the 2 shows, which would have been the part that I would have been in anyway. So I was like, if I did say yes, I would have been the 2-show Evan eventually, but like still, #no regrets. It doesn't matter. I'm glad I still got to work on it in any sort of capacity.
Yeah,
I did the workshop too. So I was there like in the room with them when they were creating it. And it's like, that to me is my favorite thing. I love that. I love seeing like the birth of a show and watching it grow into what it is now. Like it's a huge phenomenon now, and like rightly so. They work their asses off on it.
Yeah. I want to talk about Groundhog Day a little bit, but before Alex Boniello keeps coming up, and it's interesting because you guys sort of keep running into each other. You played some of the same roles. I was curious, did you ever see the Spring Awakening revival?
Yeah. I went to their opening night, in fact.
Oh, cool.
And I also saw he didn't want me to, but I saw their Gypsy run.
Okay.
I didn't tell him until afterward because I knew he was going to be mad at me. Because I straight up was like, yo, dude, I might come tonight. And he was like, please don't. And I just didn't tell him that I was. And opening, though, I was like 3rd or 4th row. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was brilliant. Just the usage of everything, the sign language, and the way they were playing this music on stage, and the 2 actors at the same time never really got confusing. In fact, it worked pretty well. I'm not like partial to either. I think both have their merits. I think they're both interpretive works of art. Yeah. I think that's the great thing about art. It can constantly be fluid. But I thought Alex, I was so proud of him because I had known his work from just like doing Chump Street. I know he's a talented guy. He did Idiot also. Like he works his ass off too. And so to see him on stage with a part that really suits him, that really serves him, and I thought he fucking killed it. He crushed it. I was so proud of him.
I agree. He was awesome. And then he got to do Connor and Hanson's.
Yep. And then I was just like even more blown away. I was like, oh, okay. Like now you grown, huh?
Yeah.
You grown up. Like he annihilates all the roles he's been given.
He was great in Cruel Intentions, the musical also. He was hilarious.
He's excellent. He's an excellent performer. He's an excellent person. He's one of my best friends in the whole world. I love the guy.
I'd love to have him on the show. That'd be a great
You should ask him.
So Groundhog Day was the first Broadway show I was involved in.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget going to the dress rehearsal, and I had one thought in my head. I was like, the turntables are incredible. This music is great. Holy shit, Gerard can tap dance. That was like my first thought. It was like, I did not know he could do that.
Let me correct you there.
Okay.
I did tap in the show. I learned to tap for the show. I did not know how to tap dance. I'm not a tap dancer, but I did have to learn tap for the show, and it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. But I did it. I did do it. I was definitely tapping up there.
Member, I would not have known that you were scared or that you didn't know how to do it before. You pulled it off great. So
thanks. No, it's it's a matter of like you can fake it till you make it. But if they were putting mics, if they were putting mics on my taps, you would definitely not hear the cleanliness coming out of certain performers who are professional tap dancers.
Sure.
I mean, we had some people up there like Terry Kelly, who's been doing it for years. She's just like a master. Katie Garrity, who played my love interest, also had taps on her shoes, and she wasn't really a tapper, she said, but they gave her a mic on her tap, so whatever. But I do remember the audition was terrifying. Speaking of Alex Boniello, they called me for the Groundhog audition, and for some reason I was just like, all right, I'll go in. I did a good job. They wanted me to come for the callback. I did that. And like, come to the dance call, bring tap shoes. And I went, God, guys, come on. I don't tap. What the fuck are you making me do this for? This is embarrassing. Like, I'm going to fucking embarrass myself. And Jillian at Carnahan was like, just trust me. Just, you have to show up. Basically like, hey, Gerard, you have the part. Just show up. And so I was like, okay, fine. But I don't have tap shoes. She's like, borrow them. And so Alex let me borrow his tap shoes, and they were a size too small. And so I booked the show with my toes all scrunched up in these tap shoes. And I don't know. The combination was not nearly as hard as it was in the musical. It was very, very different. But that show, they were wanting to cast all kinds of people. They had very strong dancers. They had very strong character actors. They had somewhere in between. I sort of lived in the somewhere in between where it's like I did a lot of some of the prominent dancing, but also like some of the acting stuff too. Like it was kind of a nice little thing, but it was definitely fucking hard, man. You count that show like a dancer. You don't really live and breathe it. You have to like count it because every day is the same day. And so if nothing is the same beat for beat with a little bit of a difference, it's like, it just doesn't work. So the way they manipulated each day and the counts and the timings of everything it's math. It was all math.
I was so proud to be involved with that show.
Yeah.
I thought Matthew Warkitz's direction was still some of the best I've ever seen.
It's
like
wild.
the car chase, the scene with all the different Andy Carls. But you also had 5 concurrent turntables, which is insane. And all I can imagine is, oh my God, the poor stage manager that has to call this show and the amount of work.
It was a lot, man. And also the turntables were not made here. They were made in like the Netherlands or something. And so anytime there was a breakdown or a problem, the only person who knew how to deal with it was this guy in the Netherlands. So when we're down at like 9 p.m. because of an issue, I don't know what fucking time it is in the Netherlands. Like that guy's not waking up to fix the problem. And so there were a lot of things like that where like if they just used local, shops or whatever, could have maybe had some problem solved. But they did the show there. They did the show in London. They knew what worked.
Sure.
And it was very complicated. It's a very complicated thing. I also understand being like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, it did broke because I remember the first preview didn't go off because
it broke a lot. It broke quite often.
God, the stuff they pulled off of those turntables, like the tilt-a-whirl, man, That's impressive.
It was so much fun.
That show was so fun. I wish it had had a better life. Not only because I wish I had, not lost all my money, but just because I thought it was, it's such a great message. And Tim Minchin is genius. I really believe he is.
Yeah, dog. He's great.
It's one of those shows I think I'm always going to regret that I never actually got to see in the end, because it came and gone so quick. Like,
yeah, well, it wasn't heavily advertised. It was kind of like a moment in time.
It was a tough season too. I mean, there's a lot of competition. But I'll always attribute that show to, like, I had worked with him before, but now Seth Greenleaf and I are close friends, and he's really like my mentor. Honestly, like, I
love Seth.
If he does something, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to follow in his footsteps. I think he's one of the good ones who's like helping chart the right path forward. But that was the first time I'd worked with him professionally, and now anytime I have the opportunity to work with him, I'm going to take it. I think he's truly one of the genuine mensches of theater. I
think I 100% agree with you. He's so great on Facebook specifically. It's
he's also like superly socially and politically active and outspoken. He's also,
and his outreach for animals and stuff. He's like rescuing all these like.
Yeah, and he also, I don't know, have you seen the movie he directed?
No.
He directed a documentary called Flag Football with the L in parentheses about an all-gay.
I saw he posted about it, but I have not seen it.
I went to a screening that he did a Q&A after. It's so good. There's nothing he can't do.
Sick. All right, I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, but Groundhog Day was so fun, and unfortunately it didn't last as long as I think any of us would have liked. But I know people talk about it a lot. I mean, people listen to the album. You guys got to make an album, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can live on.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about Be More Chill, but is there anything else you want to say about it? I mean, it's meteoric rise, the fans, it was just nuts. Like, I was there, backstage some nights, scared to exit because of all the fans, and then you guys moved the stage door from the back to the front because of that, which I think was a smart choice.
Yeah, it got to the point where even I had a hard time stage dooring after the musical just because I was so fucking tired and so spent. That show was really hard to do, as any of us can attest, especially the second act. It's like the first act is one show, and then the second act is an entirely different monster altogether. And like all these production numbers are in the second act, and you're just like quick changing, running around. And even though Rich kind of disappears for some of the show, I am not resting. I'm still like in other costumes and running around and doing stuff. And so it's like by the end of the show, I'm just cashed. And then it's not just a regular stage door. It's like hundreds of kids.
It was like the Beatles in the 60s, the noises you would hear.
Yeah. And so I'm like, look, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to freeze up and I'm going to be a not very good version of myself. So I'm going to take the secret exit. So I would do the secret exit quite a lot after the show on Broadway, just because I didn't want to represent myself in a negative light after the musical when I'm exhausted. And we're there all the time. I mean, people don't realize, like, you live at the theater. It's there's no rest. There's just like, it's only Be More Chill. And then you sleep maybe. And then you wake up and you're like, shit, I have to do Be More Chill tonight. So I have to, what am I eating? Well, how early should I get there? When should I eat? That all these things that like run your life. So, I mean, it was a whirlwind. I'm glad I'm glad it happened, but I'm also glad I'm not currently having to do it because my body was truly about to break.
Yeah. It seemed like a hard show to do. And, I've had this conversation with people before, and I know some people may disagree, but I feel very strongly that actors do not owe the stage door to anyone. Yeah. I think it is a very nice gesture and courtesy if they're feeling up to it. And when you get upset that someone doesn't come out for any reason, that is really misguided. I'll take this platform to say that because I think you're buying a ticket to the show. The exchange is the performance. Anything on top of that, you are not owed.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
It's a privilege. You're not owed anything.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, look, it's like I said earlier, the outreach between us and the fans was very important, and it was something that set us apart. But like, I also knew my lane. I know that I had people that really liked Rich and really related to the character and what I was doing with the role. But I also know that, like, in terms of the cast, there were characters like Michael and people like George that were actually quite good at engagement and social media and keeping people involved. And I know, like, I could either go out there and give you my half-ass version of what I think is great, or you'll just see George in 5 minutes and it's going to be awesome. And like, that's usually how my thought process was. And also I was gigging after that musical a lot. I had gigs at
what's it called?
At Haswell Green.
Haswell Green. Yeah. Exactly.
So I would like, the show would come down at like 10:20. or 10:15 maybe, and then I'd get out of costume and have to be at Haswell for an 11 o'clock start time, and then we'd play.
I remember when you were doing that, I was like, when does he sleep? That's exhausting.
Yeah, I was trying to just luckily I did that, so now I've built a network of musicians to stay afloat here while the acting industry has been kind of in the pits. It's been my number one thing has been music now, so I'm grateful for it, but that's why I had to do the hustle at that moment in order to maintain it.
Yeah, I loved Rich, not only because your vocals, especially in the script song, were sick as hell, but and yeah, he's kind of a bully, but I think still in the end, when he comes out as bisexual or pansexual, whatever you want to call it, I thought it was so powerful. I'm pansexual. And there isn't a lot of that representation. You get a lot of straight, you get a lot of gay. There's not a lot in the middle. And that was always one of my favorite moments in the show. And I thought you played it so naturally and really gave it respect. So I thought that was awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's a tricky thing. Once again, it's I identify as straight as much as I can. I know it's a spectrum, but putting a label on it is kind of gross. But
yeah, I don't disagree.
But it's a tricky thing because you don't want to make it distasteful, and there's nothing about it that you have to do. It's there. It's in the script, right? That's the thing. That's his revelation, and that's what's been holding me back. Holy shit! And that's such a rich thing to do. That's what. Oh shit. Okay. That's so rich to me that I'm like, oh. And Joe kind of put that in later. That wasn't really in there. In the beginning, and then we were playing with the idea and playing with different ideas of maybe Michael and Rich having a thing, and then that just became me and George wanting that to be a thing, and it was never written in the script, but we just tried to keep implementing it.
I've definitely seen on Tumblr and other places plenty of Rich and Michael / fiction, so
there's a lot of that. But I mean, look, it just became something. They needed Rich to have some sort of arc other than oh, now I'm burnt alive and I guess I learned some lessons. There needed to be something that he discovers about himself, and what a thing to do to make him discover that he's into guys also. I don't think we need to even overly label it, but to Rich, he might say, holy shit, I think I'm bi, because wow. And that's something he can be totally cool about and just realize, because that's the world we live in now. It's not a big fucking shocked. It doesn't have to be that. I'm so glad how it was written is how it came across, and I'm glad it's not any more or less, And I'm glad about the representation. I'm glad that fans have taken to it. I'm so glad there's I tried to honor it as much as I can,
I think you did. There's only one other Be More Chill thing I want to mention. So a little later in the run on Wednesday nights, you would guys would do, God, what's it called? I don't remember. You would do a little extra performance after the show.
Yeah, it's I forget what it was called too, but it was
a concert. Post-show hangout? I don't know.
Post-show hangout, post-show.
There were two that really stand out to me. So the first was when you guys did Little Shop. And I was there for that, and that was incredible. Fun. So now it's my dream for you to play Seymour, because I think you'd kill that role. Obviously, I know George did it, and he did it incredibly well, but I think you'll be the perfect Seymour. Just so happens to be PJ's favorite musical of all time.
Yes.
Hey, I love that musical. I would love to do it.
You can kind of see it, the lights off, but the 2003 Broadway cast.
I love that revival.
Dude, me too. It's the one I go back to the most, if I'm honest. I just love the cast so much.
I mentioned this before, but I saw it on Broadway with Joey Fatone as Seymour.
Oh shit, I did too, actually.
There's a whole thing.
I saw him and Hunter.
Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah, but the other one that really stands out to me, and I watch this video legit whenever I'm in a bad mood, is when you and Lolo got to do Anymore.
Yeah,
which is one of my favorite Joe tunes. It's such a gorgeous tune, and you and Lolo had such beautiful. Your voices blended so well. Obviously, she was in Spring Awakening also.
Yeah,
that was so great.
We got to reunite and sing together after not singing for years, and that was very special. And yeah, man, she's killing it in the music scene too. She's out here doing her own thing now. She has a kid and a husband.
Yeah, she had a baby recently, and God, didn't she co-write High Hopes with Panic at the Disco?
She sure did.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "Get that girl, go for you."
She sure did. She's got some good stuff coming from that. But she's super talented. But yeah, man, I love that song. I love that we got to do that together. Joe was very smart, and they asked us what would you guys want to do? And so I was like, maybe something. I could sing one of Joe's songs with somebody I worked with that's in the fam. I don't know. And so they were like, what about Lolo? I was like, duh. Yeah. Obviously Lolo. Yes. Me too.
I was sort of sad, because after Spring Awakening, she kind of disappeared a little bit, and her voice was so incredible. So I'm glad that she's out there. And
Yeah.
and making music now and writing these awesome songs.
Hell yeah.
So PJ, do you have questions about Stuck?
I don't even know where to begin. Like, where did that come from for you guys to begin with? Like, was it an off-Broadway production originally before it became a movie?
Stuck was at Nymph, and
Okay.
I wasn't involved. I had no idea what the hell it was. I didn't know anything about it. They did it at Nymph with the guy who wrote some of the music for the movie actually played my part in the Nymph production.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
it at first was like, I don't know, it was a Nymph production, so they did what they could with it. And then I think our director maybe approached them. I'm not really sure of the origins, because my story was like they hired some Disney kid that they flew out that realized he couldn't do the work. And so our director was like, let me hire someone, like, let me hire a theater kid, because we have to start shooting in like 4 days. Let me hire someone who can like come in, do the work, and get you a full character in like 24 hours. And so we do auditions like rapid fire. I get a call, I have an audition. I see all my homies there from theater. I see like Matt Doyle, all the people like singing tenor stuff. We're all going in for the same part. And the character is very me. He's very like in the breakdown. It's like I went very goth. I went like eyeliner, nail polish, dark clothes, I had like emo hair. We softened him up a bit in the film, but I was like going for it. And did the audition. It went well. The next day, I had the call back at the studio in Queens, and it was between me and like 2 of my other friends. And we were there for like 3 hours. And then I got a phone call on my way home that I booked the film, and I had to show up to set the next day to start rehearsal. And so it was like
fast.
one day, the next day, and then the next day I was there, and I'm rehearsing with Giancarlo and Ashanti and all these people.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is like every time I rewatch it, one of the things I love is that Giancarlo is playing so against type, because we're so used to him being very villainous these days, and yet he's like kind of the wise man. That
he's your whimsical narrator, but he was intimidating as hell to work with.
I'm sure. Had you watched Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Oh, I would be so intimidated to work with him. I'd be like, oh my God, it's Gus Fring. He's going to poison me.
But they made it. The set was like very comfortable. Giancarlo definitely gave me a bit of like tough love on set. Like I'm used to theater pacing. And so it's like a lot of like pick up your cues. And in TV film, it's like, take your time. And so I was like picking up the pace a lot. And he'd be like, he had to stop one of the takes. He was like, slow the fuck down. And I was like, okay. And it's like my first scene with him where I'm supposed to be a little scared of him. So I was like, I bet he was doing that also to rile me up. And it worked. And they got what they were looking for. But then at the end of it, at the end of the shoot, he said some really lovely words to me, and I'll never forget them. And it was just like everyone on the set was very supportive. Amy Madigan was lovely. Ashanti was the fucking best. Everybody was just fucking awesome. And it became like a very quick group of people that got along very well, which was because we're stuck on a train, all together. So it's like, this could have gone bad, but really every single person was lovely. And it was an experience for sure. It was like a whole month shooting at the Pfizer building in whatever Flatbush or whatever. They built a train set inside the building. And then we did like a couple days on location at like different subway platforms and things like that for the entrances and exits, but everything else was isolated and in that studio. So, Ashanti was the bomb.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. No, I was going to say, like, Magnificent Maggie is like such a great number too. How much fun was that for you, like shooting that and getting to do that? Because I think that song is fucking incredible, to be honest.
Oh, it was great, man. And the song itself evolved just as you get the people you're working with and you play with the song. I'm belting like super fucking high in that tune, so it was always like nerve-wracking when we were recording the tune, but we did record it pretty early on. So the choices I was making vocally were like, oh shit, okay, I have to determine a lot of things like right now, because we're not going to shoot this until next week or 2 weeks from now. And we played with pre-recording. Yes, thanks, Mom. We played with pre-recording vocals and live vocals. So I would have the track in my ear. Well, actually, Tim, our music director and some semi-writer, would play live piano for us to click. Oh, nice. And then we'd sing along in time with just him, but it would just sound a cappella to everyone else. So it was a little weird when you're not the one singing because you can't hear the track. But if you're reacting, you're just like watching this person emote without any track. So I'm like singing this hard rock tune and none of them can hear the track. And they haven't really heard the song yet, because in movies, you're not just sitting around like hearing everyone's song. Like I didn't really know what other people's songs sounded like. And so they were like, damn, can't wait to hear what that sounds like. You know, like that whole thing. Everyone was very excited to see the finished product, but it was definitely super weird. I don't know. It doesn't feel as like, as you want it to feel like, because it's just like, here's the camera, here's your space of movement, and here's what we want you to do, and don't do too much. And if you actually oversing, you're going to look crazy. So there's a lot of like thinking about that kind of thing. But it was still a fun experience. I learned a shit ton about how to act on camera and the things to do and things not to do, and effective ways of getting your emotions across. And the best advice I ever got was don't show us your emotion, just think it. The camera will come to you. Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking it, if you're there in the moment and you're reacting to what's going on, we're going to see that. You don't need to show me that you're sad. We're going to see you processing that. So I think that was the best advice he gave me.
Totally. Well, I just have to say, like, over the last year, I've been going through a divorce and things like that. And I found the movie like right at the right time, where it's gotten me through a lot of really, really long nights and stuff like that. The song Try has become almost like an anthem for me all the time. I listen to it a lot. So like, honestly and sincerely, thank you, because I can't tell you how much it's also helped me. So
that's amazing, man. Yeah. I'm so glad to be a part of it. If you haven't seen Stuck, watch Stuck.
Yes, please.
It's really good. Is like film and TV acting something you'd like to do more of?
Oh yeah, definitely. I always, I mean, I'm down to do whatever and to stretch my legs in whatever facet. I'm more interested now to keep doing it just because I think I have a little bit more knowledge of how to present myself and handle myself in a room with a camera. Sure. I've gotten better feedback at auditions now than I've gotten before. You know, it's starting to click, starting to make sense to me now, where it was kind of a challenge for a long time. It's hard.
It's a very, very different skill set than stage acting.
It's almost completely different. So it's learning how to prepare for it, and then like how you individually prepare for it is like a whole other thing too. So yeah, I would love to keep trying my hand at it. You know, I won't say no.
Awesome. I love that. So, you know, talk a little bit about the Dude Ranch if you want, and then PJ has some like rapid fire, unrelated to anything questions he's going to ask you.
Great. Yeah, the Dude Ranch is my current love affair band. We're a tribute band to Blink-182. And before the pandemic, we toured the country and played your favorite dive bar / rock and roll venues. And we were having a great time. We still are active. We just played in California last week. And I mean, there's not much to say about it other than we do that. We're on the Instagram, we're on Facebook, the Dude Ranch NYC. And we'll be posting about more shows and things coming up. I also joined a new band recently. I'm like, this is hilarious. I'm joining a band in a global shutdown, but this band called Lion in the Main. I'm their new drummer. So they write original stuff, so you can look out for them too. And I write my own stuff. So I'm releasing more songs. I released a tune called In Time pretty recently about Jersey and my folks, and it's all over the place where you can download music. And I'm releasing more music soon. I'm working on it. I'm recording it, and I have a concert this weekend, a socially distant outside concert on Saturday at Radial Park in Astoria. So if anyone's around,
cool.
$25 or whatever, and come hang out. We'll play like an hour, 25 or something. And some of my originals, I'll play some stuff from like Spring Awakening, Be More Chill, or maybe not Be More Chill, but like American Idiot, Spring Awakening stuff, and some originals and some covers I love. And yeah, man, it's like music has been sort of a saving grace in this whole shutdown. It's been great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, music saves lives. It really does.
Sure
really does. I think that's art in general. I mean, that was part of us doing this too. Like, I don't know what.
Yeah, we launched this whole channel in like March. We were like, what are we gonna do? Now we have like a show every week. We have people who watch. We have patrons who give us money every month. It's been crazy. It's been so awesome.
We've done like over 60 watch-alongs of just movies and shit too. Like, I can't believe it. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So, all right, PJ. What do you got for him?
All right. So as always, we kind of just like to deviate at the end so you can like geek out and have a little bit of fun. But what I always like asking, the very first one, obviously, I love movies, is what was your favorite movie growing up and what is currently your favorite movie?
Ooh, wow. I'd say my favorite movie growing up. Oh, God. I was obsessed with Indiana Jones as a kid.
Yes.
I was obsessed. I watched the Raiders of the Lost Ark like religiously all the time.
My number 2 movie of all time, I guess.
I love it. I still love all 3 of those original films. I wasn't crazy about Crystal Skull or whatever. But my current favorite movie is a very difficult thing for me to answer, to be honest with you, because I feel like my taste now has gone like just expanded into the ether. I'm also super ADD, so my taste changes all the time into things that I like to watch and enjoy. I guess what did I see recently that I fucking was upset? Oh, you know what I loved? Watch. This is a great movie, actually. Have you seen Guns Akimbo?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like full of everything I love. I don't know if it's like my favorite movie, but I absolutely loved it. And it's Daniel Radcliffe being a total badass. And you're like, what? And it's awesome. I truly loved that film. I saw that semi-recently.
I appreciate Daniel Radcliffe's continued drive to do as much different stuff from Harry Potter.
It's the weirdest shit ever because he can't.
Awesome. His career has been such a flex.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. I dig him, and he's the coolest guy. He's the nicest dude, and we have the same birthday. We've met twice, and he remembered me because he saw me in Spring Awakening. Then he saw American Idiot, and he came backstage. He was like, "I was watching the show," and I was like, "I know that guy." And he said that he's like, I looked at my playbill and I was like, holy shit, I saw that guy.
I'll be honest, Nico. I am the one person who does, and I will defend it religiously.
Yeah,
I know. I have some thoughts. But real quick, we actually have a Streamlabs donation from one of our viewers. Michael K has a question for you, and he said, what are some of your favorite Blink-182 covers that you've played, either on guitar or on drums?
Oh, boy. My favorite one to do live is always Shut Up. It's super aggro and really in your face, but it's so cathartic to play live. We also, a lot of the things from Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, I honestly really love to play. And I guess anima wise, we do Aliens Exist, and I love that tune. We slap that tune also. On drums, the whole damn thing is fun. It's just a workout. It's hard as hell. Our set is like an hour and a half long. We play for a long time. And so our drummer, thank God, has he's got this amazing sense of how to spread out when he's going really hard and when he can sit back a little bit. But if you listen to Travis Barker, that stuff's wild. It's
I
great.
was going to say, Travis is no joke as a drummer, and he drums on all of Machine Gun Kelly's new album.
Yeah, it's
actually a pretty legit pop punk album.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it.
Expected from a guy who did what he did before. I was like, oh, I can respect this. It's kind of good.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm more just if younger kids are listening to pop punk.
Yep.
Cool. Let's have that revival. Yeah, I like a lot of we have yet to play this one, but I can't wait. We're gonna play Not Now, which is a kind of a B-side from their greatest hits album, but it's one of my favorite Blink songs. So we're gonna integrate that in our set the next time we start going out on the road.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, I mean,
thank you, Mike, for the donation. We really
thank you, Mike, of course. And so speaking of music, what are some of your other favorite bands? What was stuff that really influenced you growing up?
I was an emo kid growing up and a pop punk kid growing up, and then I've sort of transferred into a more hardcore metal vibe as an adult, but I still have a lot of my favorite pop punk bands and stuff. I was a super duper Green Day fan, super duper Sum 41 fan, a huge I was also into I'm huge into Alkaline Trio, Newfound Glory, and then I started getting a little weirder. I started going for Norma Jean, a little bit heavier, weird. I got into The Used as a kid too. Who else? I could go on and on. Coheed was another one. I got more into them in my late teens because they were a little bit more complicated, but they got me into prog.
Yeah.
And then from there, now I listen to prog bands, and now it's yeah, right on.
They blazed the trail in a lot of ways of going back to the stuff that Floyd and Maiden and some of them were doing concept albums, which I love. And I don't know if you know this, they still do comic books based on the music.
Yeah.
So they're 3 albums down with the 4th one on the way as far as the comic is concerned, which is
unbelievable. Yeah, Claudio is unstoppable. That guy's nuts.
He's a genius.
And live, I don't understand how the fuck he plays the guitar like that and sings like that, because nothing he's doing is in time with what he's singing. And it's all high and it's all crazy. I'm I don't understand. I'll never understand.
Do an all acoustic gig, which to me was even more impressive than their typical show.
Yeah.
stuff he's doing. I agree. Like the time signature for his vocals and his guitar makes no sense. It would screw anyone.
Yeah.
What's happening?
I went to the 10th anniversary second stage Turbine Blade tour when they
sick.
did like the Neverender one of it, and it was a 3-hour just evening with Coheed, and like the beginning was all acoustic. Then they did all of second stage. Then they did their greatest hits. It was just like ridiculous. And watching them play, I've seen them probably close to 20 times, and it's just ridiculous. Like every time, I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. He's nuts. He's nuts. But yeah, I was big into a lot of things. And like everybody in my scene had like hardcore bands and grindcore bands. And I was in like a pop punk band. I love Protest the Hero.
Yeah.
I love Protest the Hero. Their new album is also fire. I remember I bought that album with my best friend in high school, the Kezia album. And I've never heard a band like that at that point in time. We had like a mind-blowing experience sitting in the parking lot of like the whatever music store we were in Red Bank, listening to Kezia front to back, just like in his car. Just a couple of fucking losers.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, man.
Outside of that, what about your favorite book? What was some of the stuff that you love now? What was stuff that you read growing up too?
To be honest, I'm not a huge bibliophile myself, but I did read books that I attached myself to. Like I was obsessed with To Kill a Mockingbird as a kid, couldn't put it down, read it like 3 times. I had it first as a summer reading book, and then I like needed to read it again. I like reading a lot of things that are like books about like biographies and things like that. I find people's lives pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of like, I can't really remember the last like story book I've read though. I'm more of an audio guy, and I watch movies and stuff, which I really enjoy. Reading to me, if I'm reading too, I have to like have music blasting or something. I can't just like sit in silence. It distracts me more, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's more of like a thing. Like I have to have the right ambiance and the right book and the right thing, which does happen. Just, it's few and far between.
No, nothing wrong with that. I kind of love that answer because, I mean, I like reading a lot, but sometimes I kind of get in that same space. So I understand where it's like I can't necessarily focus the way I would love to. Maxwell's helped me get back into it.
I'm the opposite. I can't have any noise when I'm reading. If there's music playing, it distracts. And I am a huge reader. I like to really get in on the words and the prose and focus on it, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will get distracted by my own thoughts when I'm reading, and that's just the worst.
That happens to me every 5 seconds. So.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of...
But I am trying to get more. I keep sending PJ books to read. I'm like, you're going to like this one. And then he's reading them, so it's working at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's either that or I read Dark Tower all over again.
Dark Tower is awesome. Stephen King is the best.
Stephen King is the best. What about for you? Who was like your hero growing up? What was someone that had like huge influence on you and like kind of put you on the trajectory, if you will?
I guess to be perfectly honest, in like the music scene, it was always Green Day. It was like constantly whatever they were doing and putting out, whatever Billy was doing. I idolized his wardrobe. I idolized how he was putting himself out there. I idolized how he politically got involved and also wrote these bangers. I idolized how he wrote incredible melodies over guitar chords you might have heard before, but they've never been played like that before, and you've never heard this melody like this before. You know, he had this innate ability to make something out of like, he like recycled stuff sometimes. Like Green Day steals things sometimes. They have some chord progressions in there. I'm like, that's a Chicago song. But he makes a completely different tune out of it. And I think that's like mind-blowingly cool. And to be perfectly honest and gushy and stupid, my parents were huge influences, and my dad was a huge influence musically. My mom is a huge influence musically, and as a person, I think they are very good representations of the person that I want to be. And the kind of like musical appreciation that they have, and the appreciation that they have for the art form of any art form really is something that I've always admired.
I love that. No, totally. Because I think it was part of my influence was my parents. Like I was kind of telling you earlier, as I grew up with a lot of art, like they were always trying to put me in, like making sure.
My parents gave me all kinds of CDs, like Jimi Hendrix, Cream, like all that stuff.
Yeah, it was music, making sure I was watching musicals and art, like theater and things like that. Just, I like that. It pushed us all forward. I think that's kind of special, actually.
I agree.
Yeah. And then, what's your favorite curse word? I know that's random, but what about that?
I say fuck all the time. It's got to be. I mean, There's got to be other good ones. I also really like it. I don't know if it's a curse word, but in Almost Famous, I got to say the word ponce, and I thought that was a fun word.
God, Almost Famous.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so remiss that I didn't. That's like one of my top 25 favorite movies of all time.
Dude, it's great.
So
we've yet to show our face in New York, but we will.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's one, and if I've been asking around, I'd love to get involved with it. I think it's great. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. You have a pretty nice role in that too.
Oh yeah, it's great. I love it. I love the show. I love the cast. I love doing it. Like, I can't wait to do it again.
It's funny. I was talking with a friend. I was like, who are they going to cast to do Russell? I'm like, that's such a hard role. And then when I saw who it was, I was like, okay.
Yeah, Colin's great.
Colin's great. Yeah, I saw him. God, the first day, not my first date, the first day I ever knew Liz, we went and saw the Wicked tour in Philadelphia, and he was Fiyero.
Oh, shit.
So
yeah,
Colin has been, he's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for that to come. I'm so sorry I didn't ask about it sooner. I totally forgot about it for some reason.
Fine. It's totally fine. It's coming.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's gotta. I know you guys.
People will be very happy.
God, what's her name? Katie
Ladner.
Katie Ladner. Yeah, I worked with her last year on Carrie 2 with Preston Maxwell.
Oh yeah,
she is a delight.
She's an original Be More Chill cast member. She did the Two River.
Yeah, I love her. She's awesome. So that's gonna be great. Almost Famous. Hopefully, will come on Broadway, and you should all go see it when it does.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, talking about like future projects and stuff, is there anything that you would love to do in the future? Some like any musical you would love to be a part of? Something you would love to be do a revival of?
I get asked this question a lot. I don't know. I've had such a I've had luck with things that I love to do. Like I've been able to do shows that I never imagined I would be able to do, and that I probably would want to do. And so having like a dream role is not necessarily something I have. I definitely have some like certain parts, like Seymour in Little Shop. That would be a fun part to do. Like Wedding Singer, I would want to do that guy, the lead from Wedding Singer. Like,
that would be a fun show. Those songs are good.
Yeah. But like, I don't have like a dream role. I also am so involved in creating stuff that's what I really love too. So I hope like I can just keep like creating dream roles for myself and like for other people that are like me or not and can mold into a character. I don't know. Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good answer.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. This was, I think, an absolute delight.
Thank you guys.
Your honesty and openness.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Good. I'm glad. I was a little nervous because I think it's okay to say this. I know there's an interview you did fairly recently where you're kind of pissed about how it went.
Oh yeah, no,
I got to be on top of my game, but I always try to do research and make sure everyone's.
Oh my gosh, this is no, this is lovely. And that was such a that's few and far between those experiences, but when they do happen, it's good to note that like, hey, maybe you should like know who your guest is, and like that's just like basic, right? I don't know. Love you, DP.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Dan.
it. Yeah, I don't understand the idea of like, hey, we're going to interview this person and not know anything about him.
Yeah, it was strange.
Like it helps. I've been a fan and I've known you for a long time, but then you do take 20 minutes and do a little more research. It's not hard. If you want your guests to engage and respect, the respect has to be a two-way street.
Well, I had a wonderful time. I appreciate you guys.
I'm really
glad, man.
Yeah.
So look, where can everyone find you online? Mention your concert again. Promote your stuff.
Yeah. I'm playing this weekend. If anyone is around, I'm playing in Astoria at Radial Park. It's right on the water. It's beautiful.
What time?
At 7 p.m. And that's my original stuff, some covers, some things I did from my career. I'll be performing there. Also, you can find me on Instagram, Gerard Canonico Official. You can find me there. Facebook, unless you're my friend, I try to keep it private. You could probably find me, but I'm not like going to give that out to people. And it's also like I don't always accept people on Facebook because that's like how I keep my reality in check a little bit. Instagram though, you can definitely find me there, and you can find the Dude Ranch there as well, Dude Ranch NYC on Instagram. And yeah, I'll keep on releasing music. I post on Instagram all the time, so I will be very active.
And tons of photos of Lucy, the Instagram star.
She also has an Instagram, Lucy the Noodle Dog.
She does.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, just trucking along.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Keep on hanging on. I'm going to see if I can come to the gig Saturday. I'm not sure what my schedule's like yet, but that'd be fun.
No pressure, but please try if you can.
Here's his Instagram. Thank you, Brandy, for putting that in there.
Yeah, thank
Hey,
you.
you're the best. Thank you for being on top of it as always.
Well, have a great night. This was really, really awesome.
Thank you guys
Thank you,
again.
Gerard.
And thanks
Yeah,
for
of course.
watching, all of you out there.
You're
Bye,
the
y'all.
best. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, that was just absolutely freaking
over
delightful, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Dude, he is
I knew he'd be a good guest, and I'm glad that he had a good time, and he was so open, and yeah, that was wonderful. And thank you to everyone who watched. I hope you enjoyed the interview and got a lot out of it.
Can I be honest that I like geeked out the entire time? Like, I'm still just like, we just hung out with Gerard and how cool it was. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that was
he's
just
dope.
everything. He's fucking cool.
Yeah. All right, let's go through just again, if you missed the beginning, or I'm going to remind you again. Most importantly, our good friend Kevin Smets has unfortunately been diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. He's going through the fight of his life. The PJ Campbell Network, alongside a bunch of other reactors and members of the Schmodown community, like the Cine Fanatics, Call to Action, Let's Get Ready to Schmodown, Video True, Janine the Machine, and on, have teamed up. Bador have teamed up to do the Smash-a-thon. This is this weekend, Saturday, November 14th through Sunday, November 15th, starting at 3 p.m. Pacific. If you check out my Twitter or the Twitter of the PJ Campbell Network, or basically anyone involves Twitter, there is a full schedule. Brandy has graciously posted the link. It is not on any particular YouTube channel. We have started its own channel for the event. PJ and I specifically are going to be hosting a Sunday morning unwind as part of the stream. That's at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon.
I believe that is correct. Let me look at the schedule again real quick.
Anyways, the schedule is up, and myself and Rachel Cushing are co-hosting Inner Geekdom Family Feud with competitors like Mike Kalinowski, Brandon Hanna, Chance, Robert Parker, Laura. That's going to be really fun, and I promise you it'll go better than some of the family feuds we did on this network. And if it goes bad, you know what? Those are super entertaining as well. But please do tune into as much of that as you can. It's to raise awareness for colon cancer and getting screened properly and having colonoscopies at a younger age than is maybe medically recognized. You know, Kevin is only in his early 40s, and if he hadn't have fought hard to get his diagnosis, he never would have known. So if you feel the need, go to the doctor. I know they can be scary, but I recently found out something that had I not been strong enough to go to the doctor and get taken care of, I never would have known. It could have been really bad. So we look forward to seeing you at the Smash-a-thon. PJ and I may pop in at other times. I know Bador is going to be playing video games all night. So maybe PJ and I will pop in for some of that. Who knows? But because of the Smash-a-thon, we are going to be doing our Water Cooler Chat Mandalorian edition tomorrow instead of Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific,
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Eastern, which means I have to wake up early to watch the episode, or more likely I'll watch it when it drops at 3 a.m. tonight.
I was going to do the same thing, so we're good.
Tomorrow night, an hour later than normal, at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, we're watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This is genuinely one of my favorite comedy films of all time. I'm so excited to watch it. And I love that we're watching it now, because even though it's a holiday film, it's really, to me, the best Thanksgiving movie, other than Pieces of April with Katie Holmes. There aren't very many films that are Thanksgiving, and this is one of them, but it also gets me in the comedy spirit. And John Candy and Steve Martin are indelible. Yes. Oh, hey, Ben. How are you?
What's up, Ben?
Yeah, getting checked out, going to the doctor. Look, I get it. It's scary, but it's really important because our bodies can be infected with all sorts of shit. And if you don't go to the doctor once a year and get your blood taken and get checked out, you just never know. And if you want to have a fighting chance, you got to know. I'll get off my soapbox now, but I'm sure we're going to be talking about all this sorts of stuff on the Smash-a-thon. Monday night, we're watching The Night Before. Really funny movie. Probably my favorite part in it is Michael Shannon as the drug dealer.
Who might be an angel?
Who might be an angel. I've only seen it once, I think, so I'm really excited to watch it again. Wednesday is Suddenly Soundtracks, the show where they go through an album of a movie or a musical and discuss the songs out of context. What's really super cool about this is we are being joined by Max Bartos. Max was one of the leads in the off-Broadway production of Sing Street, and he was all set to join the Broadway production, which was supposed to open on March 24th. Of course, we know that has not happened, but they still fully intend on opening, and there is an album. They did release a Sing Street original Broadway cast album you can find on Spotify or Apple Music. But Max is awesome. He's going to come and talk about the songs with myself, Kristen Smith, not Stewart, as I so egregiously said earlier, PLD, Tim Franco, not Time Franco, Tim Franco, and of course, host Chris Clark. That's going to be a blast. And then next Friday, double feature watch along of Trading Places, not Spaces, and Coming to America, 2 brilliant Eddie Murphy comedies that are indeed holiday films, whether you like it or not.
Yes, sir. And of course, we told you guys last week, Die Hard has been pushed. We are going to find a date to do it. It'll be sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think it's okay to say PJ's been incredibly busy with the Schmodown. Obviously, the team's tournament is on its way. Tomorrow's that big pay-per-view, and of course there may be this little thing called Spectacular coming up next month. So, yes, but the season's almost done, and that means PJ gets to rest. And please be kind to the writers. PJ and his team, Jose and Abby and everyone, work incredibly hard. It is a daunting job. I'm saying this, they don't get enough respect that they deserve. Just be kind to one another. It's really important to exert compassion and empathy.
And this is like a thing for me, but if you're part of the show and you think that you found a loophole in a question, don't text me about the loophole in the question you think you found. Like, I just don't do it, please, for the love of God.
I want this too, a Kristen Stewart and Time Franco watch along for Trading Spaces. That would be in December. But yeah, we'll reschedule Die Hard probably on a Tuesday night, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we have to do, we need to talk to Brandy and our producer, Mr. Franco, to make sure we get their movies for the month as well.
Yes. And also, the plan for Front Center Mez, 2 Thursdays from now, obviously, is Thanksgiving. So this will be our only episode this month. But honestly, I couldn't think of a better episode to be our November episode. I thought it was fantastic. The plan for December is to do 2 episodes, one of which will be an interview like our normal shows with a guest to be announced. Yep. And then we know a lot of you enjoyed our favorite spooky musical episode to celebrate Halloween. We are going to do one fully devoted to our favorite holiday musicals. Preston Max Allen is confirmed to be joining us for that again. And I'm going to try and get 1 or 2 other guests from the Schmodown community. Hopefully people who have never been on the show before to talk about their favorite holiday musical. So that's going to be really exciting. And I can't wait for that.
No, seriously. Can I just say real quick, bud? How proud I am of what you've done with this show over the last several months, and I really mean that. So I'm really glad that we get to go out strong.
I appreciate it. I've had podcasts in the past that have lasted 3 or 4 episodes, but this is the first one, and being a part of the network has honestly been such a joy for me. But I am super passionate about this show. I love interviewing these people, and I like every time, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this just to be honest, like, every time an episode finishes, the guests always express what a good time they had, how comfortable they had, which means I'm doing my job right.
Absolutely.
I give a lot of credit to Mark Maron. I don't know if any of you guys listen to What the Fuck with Mark Maron. He is by far my favorite interviewer. What I like about him is he gives the guests the opportunity to actually express themselves. He listens to what they're saying, their long-form interviews, and he's not afraid to bring in personal stuff. I think when you're interviewing someone in a long-form fashion, if you can relate to them or make it more of a conversation instead of just sitting there and blinking, it makes it more exciting, and hopefully everyone agrees.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for watching. Everyone, where can everyone find you on Twitter, PJ, and everything, on Salad and all the
wherever. But you can find me at PJ_Campbell, Twitter, Instagram, Salad. You can find me over at the Movie Trivia Schmodown. I write questions. I have a really great time doing it. I hope you guys are enjoying the season. It was a daunting task, and I've enjoyed it very, very much. So thank you for your support. And of course, you can find me here hanging out with you. I love hanging out with you, man. You're like my best friend in the whole world.
I love you too, man.
So I love doing this.
You can find me on Twitter at CinemaXwell, Instagram's at CinemaXwell Inc. You could follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/MaxwellBoxRocks. That's Maxwell, BoxRox. chances are good I am going to do some twitching next week. This weekend I'm going to be pretty busy with the Smash-a-thon. I'm hoping to stay up the entire time and pop in as I can, or just be there for support. But I also
Kaiser, you are also one of my best friends.
Oh, what's up, Kaiser?
What's up, Kaiser? I miss you, man. I hope you're well. Like, really, I do miss you. You're the best.
We love you, Kaiser. I got a PS5 today, so maybe I'll hook up the PS5 and Twitch some of that next week. I don't know. It's kind of daunting. It's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna roll the credits. These are our brand new credits that we put at the top of the show. But if you missed them, when I first saw them, I got chills because Chris Clark is so good at what he does.
And real quick, guys, you know how much we love Donald Pleasance on this network.
Go to Cavity Donald Pleasance is on that shirt, yeah.
Right here.
No,
Donald Pleasance.
This way.
And I want you guys, if you love it, I want you guys to go over to Cavity Colors. They have like an entire Halloween line, and there's a couple of different really cool Donald Pleasance shirts. So
yes, we will see you at the Smash-a-thon, Kaiser.
I love you, Kaiser.
All of your work and help on that has been indelible.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, just again, if you like these credits, let Chris Clark know. He worked really hard on them. He is the sort of lifebeat of this network. We couldn't do half of the stuff we do without him.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.